Second.
Scharf, second by Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Now is the public comment time, which you're welcome to speak for 5 minutes time limitation. No profanity will be tolerated, and no personal attacks against council members or city staff will be allowed. Council is unable to respond or take any action at this time. Please state your name and address before addressing the council for the official record. There's several people who have signed in, but several of you are on, you have that your topic is the daycare, which is actually an agenda item, and so it's better for you to talk at that point instead of at the beginning here, because there's response or dialogue then. Is there anybody that signed in for that purpose that needs to talk beforehand for the daycare? Okay, then I do have Leanne Harrison that wants to speak.
They're on. They are on.
You're not hearing?
It's not working.
Oh, goody.
Leanne Harrison, 514 Fifth Avenue Southwest. I'm here representing the Buchanan County Historical Society, and would just like to update the council and invite them, the council and everybody in TV land. On Sunday, July 1st, we are having breakfast at the Mill from 8 until 12. The Lions Club and the Historical Society are going together this year for that event. And then on Saturday, July 21st, is our annual Oakwood Cemetery Tour from 12 until 3 in the afternoon. And then Saturday, August 18th, is the famous Independence Underground, and that will be from 10 until 2. So we just wanted everybody to be aware of it and invite everybody to attend.
Thank you.
Thanks,
very
Leanne.
much.
You'll probably have that stuff on the marquee at the mill too, won't you?
Yes, thank you.
So we're not live on TV right now, is that what I'm hearing back there? And you're not getting any volume either? Nothing. John, is your video thing going through Facebook? So hopefully some people are there. Okay, thank you. I could read off these other names, but they all do say daycare. So if you're okay, I'm going to wait, and when we have that on the agenda, I'll have you guys come up at that point. So next on our agenda is a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following: minutes of the June 11th, 2018 regular meeting and June 19th, 2018 special meeting. Del Rio Incorporated Class C Commercial and Sunday Sales Liquor License, June 15th, 2018 through June 14th, 2019. Chung Garden of Independence Class B Beer includes wine coolers and Sunday Sales Liquor License, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. City of Independence Baseball Softball Complex Class B Beer includes wine coolers and Sunday Sales Liquor License, July 10th, 2018 through July 9th, 2019, and Bill's Pizza and Smokehouse Catering Privileges Class C Commercial Outdoor Service and Sunday Sales Liquor License, July 20th, 2018 through July 19, 2019.
I'd make a motion.
Motion from Kurt,
Second.
second by Al Lawson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of claims for payment.
So moved.
Motion by Hill,
Second.
second by Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Petitions from the public. We start out with Officer Lau. If you'd want to step forward, please.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Good. I guess since last month, we did have our citywide cleanup. Unfortunately, we did get some rain that morning, which I don't know on the numbers if that hurt us from what we did last year or to this year or not, but
Doesn't look like it.
it seems like we still had quite a bit of cleanup done around the city, which is good to see. Happy to report, getting started now after we've had our citywide cleanup, We've had, over the last 4 years, well, the first 3 years anyway, we had at least 2 or 3 properties that were an every year occurrence. This year, they're actually not in violation right now, so I think we kind of got our point at least proven over the staying on them for the first 3 years, and so hopefully they will keep things cleaned up now. So, I mean, knock on wood that we don't have to deal with them, but if we do, we'll address them at that time. Most of what we've had to deal with so far is fairly minor, so I think town is looking a lot better than it has the 3 years prior. Getting minor complaints and the junk ordinance stuff is very minor in the yards, and I'm able to get those cleaned up fairly quickly because they're so small. But the majority of the big properties and the big problems that we've had, those are a lot better today than what they ever have been, so. And we'll just continue to follow up on complaints on the other issues as far as mowing and stuff too. So I didn't
So
know.
you do still receive complaints and then follow up on those
Yes,
to see? if
yes,
those are
yep,
done?
yep.
Okay.
And actually, people are getting to be a little bit better about it this year. But I mean, I've had probably, I come back to work after days off and I have probably 8 notes on my desk of properties that people are wanting me to check. You know, even if it's something that's not in violation, but they're still calling, wondering, and I go out to the property, inspect that, and then get back to the other homeowners and stuff. So people are still, the word of mouth and what we've done, not only with our council meetings, but just educating the public has worked.
So they are leaving their name and address, and that way you can get back to
Yes,
them or
yep.
telephone
People have
number.
gotten a lot better about that, which is very helpful.
Good, because that makes a difference, so they don't let you know who they are, you can't
Correct.
respond.
Yep.
Thank you. Does council have any questions?
I was by a place, it's on Fourth Avenue Northeast, right across from Sandburr Hill Park.
Okay.
Is that on your radar?
It's one that has been on the radar every year for the last 3 or 4 years, and they've got it cleaned up every year. If it's the one that I'm thinking of there you're mentioning, yeah, they were supposed to have had that cleaned up. They were supposed to be getting a dumpster. They were given the citywide cleanup information. So, I mean, if they haven't got that cleaned up yet, I think at the time I checked on it, it was some tires and rims and stuff that were sitting. I don't know what it's done since then. I mean, maybe there's more stuff there now that I haven't.
You might want to drive up by there. I thought it looked pretty junky, but
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely
I don't
check
know
it and
what
see if they
the-
took advantage of that. 'Cause
I don't know what the criteria is, but.
And I talked to them, a few different times, and I think maybe Councilmember Hannah actually.
I have. They're
talked to
mowing it
them,
right
too.
now. I just come by there a little bit
So-
ago, so they make an attempt to, they don't have a garage or a shed, so, it does make it difficult as to where you put your stuff. And
Yeah, and I know
they're
like,
decent people when you talk to them.
and some people have complained about the motor home or different things, but the stuff that they have there in that aspect are actually up to city code. It's just sometimes they get a bunch of the kids' stuff or household goods, or once in a while you end up with a stove or something sitting out there. But the last time I remember talking to them and giving them the flyer, or not giving them the flyer, but at least explaining it to them, that's what they had, is tires and rims and stuff, and they were waiting to get rid of that stuff. But not to say that that was a few weeks back, so it could have changed.
And it might have been before the cleanup that when I drove by, I can't remember for sure, so maybe they took advantage of
Yeah,
that.
but yeah, I'll definitely get hold of them, and I'll take a trip down that road and see what they have, if
And then-
it needs to be revisited.
Right behind them, to the east, there's an old shed that's leaning at about a 30-degree
Yeah,
angle.
right there in the alley.
I don't know which property that belongs to, but
Okay.
that looks like it could
Yeah.
fall at about any
Yep,
time.
that would be something that we'd need to address through building codes and have that inspected. That guy actually is one that the first year was on the list for the junk ordinance, and he was able to get that property cleaned up, and he's been easy to work with. But that's his one thing, is he actually wants to take that shed down, is his main goal. I mean, that just hasn't happened in the last few years, but yeah, it is definitely leaning.
It's gonna happen, I just hope nobody's in the way.
But yeah, that's definitely something we should have our buildings codes maybe swing by and take a look at it and see if we don't need to address that further.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
Anything else?
Thank you very much. We always look forward to seeing
Good
you.
job.
Next on the agenda is John Evers, ICAP distribution.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Our reasoning for coming tonight is twofold. Your work comp is up for renewal the first of the month, and it stayed basically almost the same as last year. After your audit, there was very, very little difference. Your mod factor's still down there below 8.0. It's like a 0.75. That's exceptional for any municipality to be in that area. They made a mistake a year ago when they calculate it out, and you got a really good benefit, so to speak, for lack of better terms. So they allowed that to go. So it wasn't the right charge, but it was still, they just let it happen. So still, you're at a 0.75, and that's exceptional. Second reason for coming, any question on the work comp? Okay. My second reason for coming tonight is this will be your second, ICAP has offered another return of reserve because of the surplus they have. Everybody, all their entities that are fully 100% invested, they have what they call a return of reserve money. So Independence, this is their second year to qualify for that. So I'm here to award you $5,420.02 that can be used at your discretion. This is not like the safety money you got here earlier. This is over and above that. So however you want to handle this is entirely up to you folks here. So I'll hand that to
Gina gets it. Treasurer.
Could you pass it? Just have them pass it, John. Thank you.
So,
We're always glad to see you when you bring us a check.
yeah. Any questions for that?
No, it's wonderful.
Going back to work comp for just a second, your last meeting, you voted to add the volunteer coverage. That was good. That's going to be added effective July 1st. That is your renewal term for work comp. I could have added it the day after you told me to, but then they charged the full annual premium for that year, and your renewal is only 2 weeks away. So I didn't see a reason to charge the city $100 for 2 weeks and then get dinged another $100 2 weeks later for the same thing. So this will be on your 2018, 2019 renewal. So if you've paid your work comp supplement or your work comp already and you get a supplement bill, that's what that's going to be for, is that added volunteer coverage. The volunteer coverage is medical only. So a city citizen wants to help mow grass for Bobby out to Park and Rec, and they would be injured. They're doing this as a volunteer, so there's no income loss here, but there could be some injuries. So the medical portion is what this is designed to do. They cut their hand, they need 4 stitches. This is what that does. And the $100 or $120 a year that it is, it's $10 per volunteer, and that's the minimum premium. So, I mean, you can have 10 volunteers and it's the same price. So it's kind of a win-win deal.
We appreciate you waiting.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Well, I hate to give you a check for $5,000, say I need 100 back.
200.
200, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Any questions on that?
Thanks, John.
All right, thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.
Have a good evening.
Next on the agenda, I have Kim, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Salo,
Say no.
Salo, if you want to come forward. Is she here?
See ya.
Is there anybody here representing her? Okay, it is on your agenda that she made a request for fireworks for a sister from Colorado that's here visiting. You should have seen all that with information. I don't know whether you guys want to discuss this or how you want to do this.
I'd make the motion not to approve it.
I'd second it.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to not approve this request. Is there any other discussion? Do you?
The
There,
reason that everybody's going to vote no is that we banned them from the city. So
Yeah.
why
and
would
this
we
is
turn around
just
and give a
right
permit?
down, 2 blocks away, right in the center of the city. I think that's a big mistake.
Should we take them out in the country
Location
and
where
shoot
she
them?
wants to do
That's
this?
down by my house, isn't it?
Not quite.
It's pretty close.
I think the challenge that you have is where do you draw the line? If you permit it here, what is your standard for denying others? And it does create a challenge.
Okay. So we do have a motion and a second to not approve this request. I need a roll call, please.
Vaughn,
You have to
You
say
vote
yes
tricky
if
one.
you're
Yeah, it's
voting
tricky,
to
isn't it?
not, yes if you don't want to approve the request.
It's a yes if you don't want to approve it?
Right.
Correct.
Bob, it's Bob's fault, isn't it? Yeah, I'll vote yes.
Okay.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried to not approve the request. Next on the agenda is no parking, 4th of July. Brianna Payton is on my thing. Are you here?
Brianna has asked, she lives on Center Avenue, and each year during the Fourth of July celebration, with parking, it gets very congested in front of her house. She has trouble accessing her property, and has asked if the city would allow no parking for July 4th at 719 Center Avenue
On the north side,
on the north side.
that's access road to a couple other structures behind.
She's asking for no parking, is what she's asking
Okay.
for. So it shouldn't affect any access in there.
Okay.
It's just,
Usually you can park there?
excuse me?
Usually you can park there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Are there gonna be no parking signs put up temporary, or?
We would be able to put them up if you approve it. You know, at this point, we don't have city council action to prohibit parking, so it would be considered public parking. And we do put up temporary no parking, but again, it would come at your direction.
If they don't block driveways, what's the problem with the parking there?
I imagine they do block the driveways.
They can't block a driveway. If
No,
they block a
that's-
driveway, we could cite them for blocking driveways. They can't
Yeah.
do so. We have a city ordinance against it. And that's 8th Street Northeast, is what the one that runs the north side of our house. So it is a dead end. It goes around to the back to some other buildings and stuff, but it's a dead end street. And when we do get a lot of vehicles down there, it does have people parking all over the place. If she has an issue that's somebody parking in a driveway, by all means, give us a call. We'll try to find the owner to get it moved, or we can ticket it at that time. She also has the right to have it towed away from her driveway if she wants to. Then the person has to pay the tow fee for it, so. But. It's up to
So
you.
where she lives is on a dead end?
She lives on the corner of Nelson Avenue and 8th Street Northeast. And the north side, what she's asking for is actually 8th Street. It's a dead-end street. But with as much parking places, or least amount of parking places we have, it does get people parking on streets all over the place. But it's not just her house, it's everybody's house that people park up and down the roads that they're allowed to park on. So people would probably park off the road or right at the very edge of the road, which is legal to do so in this area. So I would not see putting no parking in that area, because you start there, where are you gonna stop with the neighbors? How about my house? Can I have no parking in front of my house on
We
Crane Avenue?
we haven't had any trouble with them parking 3 or 4 deep on the street, being a dead
No,
end?
we've never had any issues with 3 or 4 deep or blocking traffic or anything that we've been called to. We have had 3 deep in the city lot next to it, the first year I was chief, but other than that, we haven't had any issues, so.
If we don't approve this, will somebody get a hold of her and tell her what her options are?
Yes.
Again,
So that, I don't know the situation. It would be nice if she'd have been here so we could ask some
right.
questions.
I was expecting her to, because I'd like to know why she wants to not have them at it. I haven't had any calls to that location or any issues with it, so.
And I agree with you, chief, that if we start there, where do we stop?
Yeah, you could open a can of worms.
Yeah.
So, because it is legal for people to park along the side, on the side of the road there, so.
There is curb and everything, so they're not parking on
I
the
No.
grass.
don't
No,
know,
there's
there's
no
no curb in that area, so,
I was just down there last night, checked it out.
yep.
So is that the issue, they're parking in the grass maybe?
That I don't know.
Ought to be in here, I guess we don't know.
Yeah, the only thing that she shared is the congestion in her, in front of her property there, making it difficult to access.
It's the 4th of July.
Yeah, it's gonna be busy.
I'd make a motion not to approve it.
May I make a suggestion that the motion read to deny the request?
I'll second.
So corrected.
I have a motion and a second to deny the request of no parking on 719, it says 719 Center, but she's on Nelson and.
But her
what-
driveway, her garage, that she enters from 8th Street, or 8th Avenue.
Oh,
Or
okay,
8th Street, excuse me.
This-
okay.
And this is the address that she gave us for the
Okay.
request.
She gets mail service on Center Avenue, but her driveway wouldn't be accessed from 8th Street.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a sec to deny this request of putting a no parking up. And I need a roll call, please.
Hill,
Well, this is John's fault, so I'm gonna vote yes on it.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes,
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Hayward.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried, and there will be no parking sign put up, so. Next on the agenda is road closure, 4th of July. Is Tyler Rasmussen here? Finally, we got somebody that showed up, even if you're clear in the back.
Been here 3 meetings in a row. How are you?
Yes,
I
you
know.
have.
We'll vote for you next time.
Call you our seventh man.
Yep.
You can come each time if you'd like. You don't have to be anything particular, just,
Just come and attend and listen in. And well, I guess we're asking for, to close off portion of 10th Street just during the parade because we have a lot of trucks coming in to deliver milk. Nobody's figured out how to tell cows not to give milk on holidays yet, so we still have to have deliveries come in the morning. And what we've done in the past is work with the street department and the police department. And they've delivered road barricades the day before. And we have our maintenance personnel and employees go and open them up for the semi-trailers to come in. And we've had people just pull in and kind of park right in the middle of the street, and you can't get anybody in or out, and we still have to be in operation that day. So if you guys would approve that, it would be greatly appreciated.
I can verify that when you ask them to move, they get, my mother's integrity's been questioned. So I would make a motion to approve
I'd
this.
second it.
okay, motion by Hill, second by O'Laughlin.
gonna actually approve some this time.
My fault.
You'll know which way to go down, because you know what you're doing. Is there any other discussion? A roll call, please.
This is no different than anything in the past.
For the last 7, 8 years.
Kurt,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Now we're under hearings and ordinances, rezoning ordinance and third and final reading for trying to see where my information. This hearing is considered rezoning the block south of existing Wapsie Valley Creamery property from R2 to M2. This is our third reading. That's why you're here too, right? I don't know if you want to come back.
Does anybody have any questions on the rezoning we haven't covered in the last 2 meetings?
Just curiosity, are you gonna tear those houses down anytime
The
soon?
White House is scheduled to be torn down the week of July 9th, and the Yellow House we're gonna rent out for
Wow,
a while until we need to. It's still in pretty good shape.
yeah, it is.
Is there anybody that's complained to City Hall?
I haven't received anything.
I'd make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
Motion by O'Laughlin, second by Hill. Roll call, please.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes,
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried for final time. Thank you. You can still come back, though, and visit. Next on the agenda is fireworks ordinance, hearing and waiving of readings. I need a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next is a motion to hold a public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Hayward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are in public hearing in regards to the fireworks ordinance.
My understanding of the fireworks ordinance, as handled by our folks who did a lot of these last year for various cities around the state and continue to, is that in your case, the election was to maintain the status quo, which I believe is a ban on fireworks within the city, correct? But to adopt and follow the state requirements for permitting sales. It basically is the kind of the bare minimum for ensuring compliance with what the state law now provides. So legal counsel's recommendation would be to proceed.
One of the questions we keep getting asked is why we don't ban sales of fireworks in the city limits, since we don't let them fire them off, but the city has no ability to do that, do they?
That's correct. The state legislature stepped in and basically took that home rule ability away to ban sales, but retained the home rule ability to govern use. So yes, they can be sold, but they need to be used outside of city limits.
Thank you.
Did you get any written comments or anything on this?
I haven't received anything.
We
I'd make a motion to close the hearing.
close the hearing. Oh, I was just wanting to see if anybody was wanting to speak to it since it is an open hearing. Is anybody wanting to speak about the fireworks? You're here for other things, okay. Well, thank you, John. I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second, Carl.
Motion from Kurt, second by Scharf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. So then we need a motion to waive the requirements of 2 considerations of this ordinance prior to final passage and have this measure placed on its first reading and final passage for adoption pursuant to Iowa Code Section 380.3.
I'd make this motion since we really don't have any option but to pass it, so
Okay.
I'd make the motion. we waive.
Motion from Hill, second by O'Laughlin. I need a roll call, please.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried, and the fireworks ordinance is in place. I will sign it tonight before I leave, if possible. Next on the agenda is low to moderate income homeowners repair program, setting a date for a hearing for July 23rd, 2018 at 6:30 PM.
This has to do with the home rehab project that we had approved. It allows for 7 properties with a maximum of $7,500 per property to be put into that. We have the scope of the projects and the work to be completed. At this point, we really need you to set the public hearing to approve the plans and specifications, which are pretty basic, and award the bids. At this point, if you approve this tonight, we'll advertise the bids over the next couple of weeks and bring those back to you.
Second by Scharf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next on the agenda is Cindy Michaels Child Care Home Occupation Permit. Need a motion to hold the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
By O'Laughlin, second by Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. So we are in hearing for this. Is Cindy here? Would you like to come up? And this is the time, those of you who had signed in, I think, if you want to come up, and I'll go through those names.
Hi.
Thank you, Cindy.
I've been doing daycare, registered with the state of Iowa for 15 years. I have been in Independence before, got remarried, and let my license go for a little while, came back, and I rented a house, which I lived there during the week, and with my husband on the weekend, and I run 2 shifts at daycare. I had turned in my registration.
Good evening, everyone. Instead of just, I compiled concerns from the neighborhood, so it takes about 5 minutes to read this. So I'm here tonight on behalf of myself and 9 other property tax-paying residents. I have a petition signed by 10 residents on the 5th and 6th blocks of 2nd Avenue surrounding the residents in question for a home occupation permit. Included for the council members is a map of these 2 blocks, of which there are 14 homes. Of these 14 homes, I could not reach 1 person at home, and 3 houses belong to Steve Doan, which is renting the property to Cindy. So to break it down, 1 person did not have a voice, and Steve has 3 properties. The remaining 10 property owners willingly signed the petition to stop the granting of the home occupancy permit, or home occupation permit. It is obvious that the only people in the neighborhood that want this business here are the ones who are profiting from it. Since my wife Carol and I received the notice from the city council less than a week ago on Tuesday, June 19th, of the noisy business next door possibly being a permanent fixture in our neighborhood, we decided to write a petition and get the opinions of our neighbors. What we found was an overwhelming mutual agreement that this business is not welcome in our neighborhood. In fact, unanimous for a multitude of reasons. I personally went door to door each day this week to 9 2nd Avenue tax-paying neighbors and heard their stories and concerns of this business that popped up in our neighborhood in early April of this year. These residents, my neighbors, not only want the encroachment of this business gone, they expect to have their voices heard by signing the petition and through me speaking to all of you tonight. A few of their reasons given to me are the basic principles of it. It sets a precedence that it is okay for business to come into private residential neighborhoods. What will be next? The concern of lower property values, the wear and tear on 2nd Avenue, which is already in disrepair, noisy kids and parents, dangerous traffic flow with cars doing U-turns and parking the wrong direction to drop off kids. Multiple times I heard from the neighbors the busy, noisy traffic at all hours of the day from 5 a.m. till 10:45 p.m. Car doors are waking me up from 5 a.m. on in the mornings. The fact that we are property owners and this is a rental property, not a home dwelling, that is up for a home occupancy permit. We have not had great success with the rental properties in the neighborhood. The added traffic could escalate the replacement of our road. Cindy can move away at any time, and the neighborhood homeowners are left to pick up the bill. Many more in-depth stories were told to me, and this business has only been there for 3 months. As far as hop legality, I didn't put a lot of effort into what Cindy needs to be legal with a daycare in a rental house, but it does raise questions with the neighborhood like, is she state licensed? Does the house pass fire safety for 12 children? How many customers are allowed to come and go per day, meaning cars? Is it okay to have daycare on the riverfront flood zone property? Does the name licensee have to live full-time in the dwelling? What we do know is that Cindy lives outside of Hazelton and chose to open her daycare business and a rental house in our neighborhood without following the proper steps of letting the neighbors know and acquiring a home occupation permit before doing so. We are not trying to stop Cindy from having her own business. We do want to stop it from being in our neighborhood. There are more suited commercial buildings on Main Street all the way out to the schools that she could rent space in and have adequate parking and room for children. So in closing, I feel like there are about 50 more points that need to be made. But what it really comes down to is that each one of my neighbors that sign this petition leave their homes throughout the week to go to work at separate business locations, only to return to the solitude of their somewhat high property tax homes to relax and take refuge. We shouldn't have to defend that. Thank you for your time.
Do you have the petition with you in that paper?
Yes, all 6.
Oh.
Yeah.
You have it too.
Would you like my copy?
I can make
No,
some more
as
coffee.
long as Gina has it. That's fine, thank you.
I left 6.
I did read through what Scott had submitted, and I guess with all the property owners being very much against this, is strike one. And I drove down there, and the proximity of the river, I would be concerned as a daycare provider, liability with that close to the river. You turn your head the wrong way and a kid ends up in the river, it would be a disaster. I realize that can happen to a regular homeowner too, but when you've got a number of children you're trying to watch, I would be really concerned.
Let's go
And
through these other names on this list that signed in. Carol Smith, would you like to get up and speak? Is she here?
I just signed it. She was here.
Okay, okay. Steve Doan? Would you like to come up and talk?
Own 506 Second Avenue Southwest, and I own said property. And it's well-run, and I'm going to be living across the street from it. And there was a problem when the air conditioner wasn't working, and I replaced it. And during that 2-week period, the windows were open so you could hear kids inside the house. And it's nice to have kids in the neighborhood for a change, instead of all us 70-year-old retired people. It's nice to see the kids riding bikes. And as far as the river, I agree with John. There could be a problem there, but she has put up a fence enclosure that the kids play in. And there's somebody out there supervising them all the time. And there's a lot of eyes in the neighborhood that can see if there's a problem. Right now, I don't see a problem with her having that daycare there. Any questions?
How high is the fence, Steve?
Oh, it's right up here, 4 or 5 feet. And it's all enclosed. And you come out the back door and you're in the enclosure. And I suppose they have rules that they can't be outside of it. So if we can't have daycares in our neighborhoods, where can we have them? We have them downtown where there's a lot of traffic. Just doesn't make much sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Carrie Heritage? Sorry if I'm ruining your name. If you want to give me your name and address, I'd appreciate it.
Carrie Harridge, 1206 6th Street in Jessup. Cindy is my mom. I'm also her registered helper. And my boys go to the daycare when I'm not helping her, like when I'm at my own job. And my mom's done the daycare since I was little. Like, it's just, that's all we've really known. We have tried, like, I know he's complained about the parking up front. My mom has had us go to the side, which is a dead end, and use that. Wasn't for in-home daycare providers, a lot of us wouldn't be able to work. I'm a single mom. I have 4 boys. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to work outside of the home because a lot of times other daycares are so full, they can't take my kids. I have too many that they can't take. So it's just, it's really convenient for her to do it. And we've never had a problem. As long as I've been helping her, it's never been a problem for anything has never came up like that. So I don't know. I just know. And I'm not worried about my boys going to the river. They know better, and she has that fence. So I just don't see an issue with it.
Okay, thank you. Next is a Doug McMurrin. Give us your name and address, please.
Doug McMurrin, 805 7th Avenue, Southwest.
Just come forward, I could.
805 7th Avenue, Southwest, here in Independence, Iowa. I work at Gators. As many of you know, Gators is booming right now. So we're working a lot of hours. I've actually worked the last 6 weeks straight, Monday through Sunday. So having that daycare provider that's able to provide for the kids while I work Saturdays and Sundays is phenomenal. I mean, not many daycares will do that. Not many daycares will have that provision, for people like me and my wife that work, all crazy hours. So having that, it really means a lot. It really does. I mean, gives us opportunities. And like a lot of us, people that need daycare, we are tax-paying citizens, We work, we pay our taxes. And what she runs is phenomenal. My kids love her. We love her. She does a great job, so. Yep, thank you.
Pick my daughter up and she's been out there and it's very high, it's closed off.
there's no threat of them going into the water.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Janelle Hammond, is that correct?
My name is Janelle Hammond. I live at 609 First Street West. It's a Remax building, but there's little houses behind there. I wanted to talk about the positive things that Cindy's Daycare brings not only to myself and other families, but the community. I think small businesses are amazing in this town. I originally grew up in Dysart. My father works here in town as a teacher and a basketball coach. I work here in town at ABCM Rehabilitation Centers, and my hours vary every day. Sometimes somebody doesn't come in and I need to stay longer, so I just call her, and she's wonderful about keeping my son for longer times. It creates a couple jobs for some of these moms that have their kids there, and I think that that's wonderful that they're there with their own children and can come and go, and my son loves every single one of the people that help her. I think that there is a very large need for daycare in this town because, I mean, my son has been on the waiting list at Kidsville for a year and a half. My unborn child is on the waiting list, and they won't have a spot for him as well. I've tried other places. A daycare that my son previously went to he never got to go outside. He never got to go on trips. And with this daycare, he can do that. And I think that that is absolutely wonderful. Dropping my son off, he's going to have a wonderful day. He's going to play outside. I mean, they have to have a certain ratio of children per one adult. So anytime he goes outside, I know that she's following those codes that are created by the state. These kids take field trips in the community, which I think is wonderful. They go to the pool, they go to the library. I find my son being more interested in books and other things. There's so many people that just rely on Cindy and to help them. My son has grown immensely with all the socialization from other kids being there, other families, and I just don't, it would break my heart to have to take him away from that because as a parent and dropping my son off and knowing that he is safe and happy where he goes is my number one priority. Is there any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Hedgman? I apologize if I'm ruining you guys' names. Sometimes it's hard to get some of these handwritings.
I'm Katie Hedgman. I live at 1100 2nd Street Southeast, apartment 16. I'm representing Cindy. My kids absolutely love going there. They get sad when I actually do get to stay home on the weekend. I work a lot of hours also, and she is very flexible, and I love that. Not a lot of daycares do that. Yeah, my kids get so excited when they go swimming and to the library. They tell me all about it when I get off work. They have so much fun there, and yes, there's a secure fence around the backyard, and they are always out there playing, and there's always an adult with them. And I truly do not trust anyone else with my 3 kids, and I really trust her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one is Vincent Michaels. Name and address, please.
Thank you. I'm here in support of my wife, asking for this permit for the daycare. It truly takes a village to raise children. It's an old adage, but it really works that way. My wife is a paraprofessional in the independent school system. So for 5.5 hours a day, she goes to the school and works there. She takes children from her daycare to the school on her personal lunch break, so the kids have a way to go to kindergarten and back home. She does it twice, she takes kids home from school, brings kids back to school. She truly works day and night, 7 days a week for these kids. She's licensed by the state. She has 30 hours of continuing education every 2 years. She's in the state food program to where they monitor meal, nutritional values, they give classes. They want the kids to truly be able to thrive and succeed. Safety and security is a #1 issue with the state and with my wife. We put a fence up because the state required it. Our insurance provider required it. We take care of our kids and our daycare kids as if they're our own. We like to go on field trips. Right now I'm looking for another vehicle so we can go to Fontana Park, to the animal exhibits. They go on shifts to the library, to the pool, and the other things. They really involve themselves in the community, and it's a good way to get the people to work in this community and to stay in this community. There are a lot of people that work in this town. There are some people that work out of town, but they still choose to have their kids at the daycare in town. Okay? It fills a void, it fills a need. As far as some of the concerns that were raised in the petition, we don't monitor or we don't alter the property. It's a house. It looks like a quiet neighborhood. It's not run as it's not as a factory or a business. It's out of home. It's the same as if like a mail folding envelope, stuffing envelope business was run out of the house. You can't tell the difference from the inside or the outside. It still functions as a house. It has all the things houses have: heating problems and air conditioning problems, and kids, they're hard on things, but I fix doorknobs and safety gates and do my part too. But we provide this in this location because it's close to the school. A block away is another park that the kids can go and play at, and they can walk to the park. In searching for a place, it took my wife a while to find a place that was centrally located in town that she thought was a nice neighborhood, and that is why she chose there. As far as we have had daycare at our house outside Hazleton, and we had customers bringing their kids out to our house. And in the wintertime, the roads are slick. The county does maintains the roads the best as they can for the snow and that, but it's treacherous, it's dangerous. It's very easy for my wife to drive into town at 5 o'clock in the morning to take care of kids than it is for 7 or 8 families to drive out of town at the same time. There are certain things, these are just things that are presented to the council today. Are there any questions that you have at this time? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we went through the list of those that signed up before.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
Good. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them have children. I know what getting daycare is like. We raised 3 daughters too. My wife worked. One of the things I think we need to remember in our community is all the years I've been on the council, I hear people say we need to have businesses, we need to have more jobs, we need to have more people in independence. There's several things that have to be in place for a business to be able to hire. One is you have to have employees. Second, those employees, and I can tell from personal experience working weird schedules, Wapsie Valley Creamery works some strange schedules, and I had people that had to turn jobs down that wanted to work because they couldn't find a second shift daycare alternative in the community. So I think we have to keep in mind that if we want things to happen in our community, we need to provide for those individuals. And I think, as Mr. Doan said, for those of us that are in that 70-year-old range, we need young people in our community to be there, because a lot of us are being retired. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think this is a service that is necessary in our community. It sounds like one very similar to what my daughter takes her child to in Grimes, Iowa, a licensed daycare person. She's in a residential area. And I took my granddaughter there for 2 weeks while they were out of town. You walk in the house, you don't even know they're there. I just want people to remember that if we want businesses and we want young people in our community, those people have needs that we forget about when we turn 60 or 50 or 70. So I guess I'm done on my soapbox.
Isn't one thing we just get this permit for a year?
I'm sorry?
This permit's for a year.
Correct.
Yes, home occupation. She'd have to read that.
to say something else?
Sure.
You bet.
Come on up to,
Registration. I own a food program. I am state licensed.
we need to have you speak there so it can be heard.
They come in my home whenever they want, as often as they want. And I can tell you, since I've been there in October, they've been there 3 times already. And that is just to verify that I have everything in order that I'm supposed to. As far as safety, I will tell you, there is a couple of times that we've played in the front yard. We put a water sprinkler out there, and the kids played in it when it was so hot. And I did not have enough transportation and car seats to take them all to the pool. Is the river concerned to me? Absolutely. I would not have been concerned about my insurance and getting the fence up as well as I did. When I rented the house in October, it didn't have a fence. As soon as the ground thawed, I put a fence in. The only kids that are ever out there alone might be my grandson, who helps me mow the yard. And I think it's important. He is 10 going on 11 years old. He uses electric lawnmower. Mr. Doan mows the majority of our property, but he mows around the fence. He weed eats the flower bed with the little electric weed eater.
Did you not know, Cindy, that you needed a permit? Is why you didn't get one?
I did not realize that I was. Like I mentioned before, they had told me that I had, but then when I went to turn on the utilities and I talked to the state, when I was getting all my registration stuff, they said they didn't know anything about it, and as well as the water department. And I guess I assumed if I had to have it, they would have told me that with me asking. I certainly would have got it along with everything else.
My thing is, I've been a teacher for over 30 years at the state hospital, and I've done some other businesses too. I got 4 kids. Sold firewood, things like that, done landscaping. But anytime I was going to do it, I checked with the neighbors to see if they had any objection to me, for example, stacking cords of wood. And that has been the case. You know, I had to put it in the garage instead of outside because they objected to it, which was fine with me. But that's something that I consider, and it looks like 100% of your surrounding.
I had talked to several of my neighbors as well, and I don't even know if they're on that list or not, but the ones that we had sent that have kids, from what I understand, they
I grew up in
were.
it. I raised my kids in that neighborhood, so I
Right.
know where these people live in conjunction to your house.
Okay, so like I said, the ones that I talked to were all for it. Some of them had ball practices with their kids and could not come in. As far as me, he knew when I moved in October, December, right around then when we started getting snow, and I'd go out and talk to him. He never complained about it until this spring, and he had had a heart attack and said my car was too loud and asked if I could do something about it. At that point, I quit parking in the front of the house, moved around to the back side, and I posted signs of no parking in the front of my yard and explained to the daycare parents that he had had a heart attack, that the noise was bothering him, and he had to park on the dead end. And for the most part, they have all respected that. We have a few that will pull around the corner if they're in a really quick hurry or running late for work, they'll run them in and run them right back out. I can only think of one car that's probably loud, and they drop their second shift family. So they do come in about 10 o'clock at night. But with that being said, I know that he's out in his shop a lot later at night. And not that that's making any excuses for it, but I've certainly have tried to talk to him and work around some of his complaints. And that's the only 2 complaints he's ever had was about my car being loud and the traffic on the street. And Mr. Jones knew what I did when I rented the house. Mrs. Morkel, they live across the street. I work with her at the school when I work. She was aware of what I did. A couple of the other families were kitty corner and across from Mrs. Morkel going toward the park. I don't remember their addresses. They all have children and they have no problem. They said they have maintained that they thought that I keep the property up, I planted flowers, it's homey. And they have had no problem whatsoever. They've told me that. I'm not sure, they've talked to my daughter as well. And she has a couple of texts where I don't know if you want to read the text or not, but I mean, I don't know what else I can do to defend my part of this.
Okay, thank you.
May I approach and use Carol's time?
I'm sorry?
May I approach and use Carol's time?
I prefer that Carol get up and give her opinion instead of all coming from one person.
Carol Smith, 508 2nd Avenue Southwest. I'd just like to rebuttal on what they're saying about the fence and being constantly watching the kids. Last Friday, I come home early from work, and the kids were outside playing ball. They were not in the penned-in area. They were also out there by themselves. I heard loud knocking on the window. They were being watched from inside the house. So she wasn't watching them constantly. So there was a possibility the ball could have went to the river and they could have ran to get the ball. There's just that split second that could have happened.
Was it the older kids?
Yeah, 8, 9 years old, but kids will be kids. They can do something in just a split second, be down at that river. I don't care if a mom tells them not to do it or not. I don't know. It's a concern. I mean, we can hear the kids from inside our house with our windows are all closed up, and we can still hear the kids out there. That's how I knew they were out there playing when I got home.
Would there be a difference if a family moved in there?
No, we've had families next door. We love kids. It's just the fact of having a business in our neighborhood and the constant traffic and the...
Cindy got to speak twice, once after I rebuttal.
Well, but she's the one that's on the agenda itself. It's her topic or her business that we're discussing. Her request for a home occupation permit is why she needs to be involved in letting us know what she's...
I'd like to hear what he has to say.
I want to hear what
too.
Scott has to say also.
I don't dispute that a lot of people are here to say that Cindy is a good daycare provider. She probably is a good daycare provider. And like Steve mentioned, in our neighborhood, there's a lot of older people. Well, if she would have actually talked to any of the 9 people that I talked to, because they all said they have not been approached by anybody and did not like that this business was in the neighborhood. So she might have talked to a person down the street, but this is everyone on 2nd Avenue on both sides of the street for 2 city blocks that said that they have not been approached.
Other than the other rental units?
So
Right.
did they sign this because they were not approached, or did they have complaints of their...
No, I got plenty of stories for just 3 months of her being in business. I had earfuls of complaints to me. But I mean, I toned this down so that it was just a speaking, you know,
Scott, if she wouldn't have come to ask for their home permit, what would these people have done? Would they have just let it go on?
if she what?
If she didn't come and ask for this home permit, and it just would have went on, daycare.
Well, I think a couple would.
She was asked by it was checked out by Doug Cook,
Mhm.
and then she was told that she needed to get a home occupation permit.
Mhm. I mean, if there's a lot of the families, if there's a lot of families here that you know believe in her, she should relocate to an area where there are children,
But that's
where they
not
are
like she's
welcome.
Looked and
Oh, there's a lot of buildings open in
Can't
this
have
town.
children in the neighborhood, where can you have them?
Well, in their well, obviously in our neighborhood, everybody has signed that they don't want this. I live directly next door, and it's not the same as living next door to a family. When you live next door to a family, you have 3 or 4 or 5 kids, and they have that family antics. You always you get the personality traits of the different children, and these children will play with each other and they'll fight with each other, and you get those family antics. But with this, I tried to go out on my deck on a nice day and leave my living room windows open, and all I heard was out of the 8 kids that were in the Pendon area, 3 of them were upset about something, so they were crying and screaming. The one girl, which wasn't Cindy that was watching them that day, constantly harped, Tamara, put this down. Tommy, get over here. It's not conducive to living next door to a family. It is constant. It's a business.
That's true, it is a business, but it relates to kids. They're not running a cement plant. They're not running a gas station.
Right, but when
They're not running a repair shop.
Mhm.
This is truly, it is a business.
I'd
But
rather-
it's a business related to children. And if children don't belong in the neighborhood, I don't know what we're gonna do with them. We can't hang them, You can't use duct tape on them. I mean, what can we do with them?
Why our neighborhood?
That's what I'm asking you. I argue with it.
There's plenty. Look at Mosier's. They went out. They have a nice business now. They rented half of Johnson's appliance building. They have a nice business going. They have parking.
She wanted to have a different environment, obviously.
Hers is more of a home environment than theirs is. But I think we've covered a lot of different things here. I don't know if council is ready, but
I'd like to say something, man.
I would too.
we're still in session at this point.
Mr. Downbeck? Oh.
Dan Boniface, 502 3rd Avenue Southwest. And I live a block and a half or so from where she has her daycare. It's actually, I live close to several, up the street, down the street, or whatever, but hers is absolutely the cleanest outside of any of them. And I didn't know this was on the agenda, so I'm not here for that, but I would say truthfully, if Mr. Smith has a problem, and I think that he and I are friends, but, I mean, he drove by my house the other day pulling his boat, and I was taking a nap, and it woke me up, because he was making some noise pulling his boat. I mean, I don't blame him for being upset if a car door opens, but my neighbor goes to work at 5:30 every morning, and his car door has to open and close for him to go to work. And if I'm up or around, I hear it. So, I mean, I understand a petition is a petition, but it's also, if he'd have come to me as a neighbor and said, will you sign this? Because I don't want them there, I probably would have signed it. And I think that might have been happening, what Deb said. If this hadn't come up, you didn't complain before, I mean, that I know of, and nobody did. So I think we need to think about that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
I know Cindy very little bit. I don't know about her daycare. I have 2 kids, you know that.
I don't like facility-type daycares, never have. My kids have gone to Kidsville, I have nothing against them. My kids go to an in-home daycare because that's where I want them to go. When I worked as a deputy, my wife worked first shift. Before, when I worked in the city of Carroll, I worked second shift. She worked second shift. Our daycare over there was open later at night so they could watch kids at night. To find a daycare in this community that works second shift so you can take your kids there is hard. I have been through 7 different daycares in this community to find ones that work late and change hours, and we have one that we've been with for 2 years and we are happy with. But to find somebody that will work with your schedule to work later hours, yeah, it's hard to do. My daycare's right next to Officer Law. I wish he was still here because I could ask him if he complains about the cars and stuff that goes through her house because it's right north of Dunlap's. And parking there is really difficult because of the people that park and that go to Dunlap's and where they park their cars. I said, in-home daycares is stuff that I prefer to have mine. I was raised at home by my mother. She stayed home. We milked cows, so she was always there. But having that home environment is what I love and what I choose for my kids. So that's why my kids are at an in-home daycare and not at Candy or Mosier's or at Kidsville. So I said, some in-home daycares I think are a blessing to the community because it does bring kids into the community that have a lot of stuff. Kids go to the park, they go to the library, because they can do that with the in-home daycare that they are at. So if she can do that with hers, that's great.
Weekends gotta be a perk for all you parents.
Absolutely. I love having my kids go to the pool with our daycare because that way I can't take them, my wife can't take them, but our daycare can take them, so they go swimming every now and then. So it gives us ability for them to get out, they can do that stuff that we can't take them to do. So if I would have taken them to Mosier or taken them to Kidsville, that wouldn't happen. They might have something there, but they won't go to the pool. So.
Okay, I think we have probably discussed on both sides quite a bit, so I would ask for a vote to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
So moved.
Motion by Scharf,
Second.
seconded by O'Laughlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. So next is a motion to approve the home occupation permit for Cindy Michaels.
I would make the motion to approve it, and I'm torn on this because I understand the neighbors. I understand their feelings on it, but I also know we need good daycare for people that work different hours. And so I guess I'm looking at the kids, and that's why I'm moving to approve it.
So you're making that motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a
Second.
second? Second for Vaughn. Roll
Can I
call.
say something?
Can I ask a question too? Go ahead, John.
Oh, let Mike go first.
Is there any mechanism in the ordinance that if there's a bunch of complaints that it can be, the home occupation permit can be pulled at some point? Or is it locked in for a year?
I would think that they would have to violate something in doing their job.
Well,
Lose the license from the state, whatever the case is, to actually eliminate the home occupation permit.
what about loud vehicles or people pulling up and swearing or?
But you can have that in any neighborhood that doesn't even have to have anything to pretend to.
You have loud vehicles
children.
and stuff where people outside being disorderly, give us a call, we'll be happy to come over.
Yeah, there are.
Let's talk after the meeting. I got
John?
a bunch of them.
I was just gonna, I appreciate everybody's comments that spoke. Scott, I understand your concerns, and I really liked hearing from the patrons of the daycare and listening to everybody says. And I agree with Bob, it's really difficult to find daycare providers that are flexible to the point where they'll work with your schedules. And some people get called in at the last minute, you gotta find your day, somebody to watch my kid. I've been an employer for over 40-some years, and I know what people go through. And I'm sensitive to the neighborhood issues. And what I would urge you, Cindy, is see what you can do to work with the neighborhood and, listen to what their concerns are and have open dialogues about it, because I think there's a workable solution to this. And if you have a couple of customers that maybe need a new muffler, there's plenty of muffler shops around town that can fix it for them.
Are you trying to get business, John?
Yeah. Okay, roll call.
But seriously,
Yep.
I think we can work it out.
The difference between this business and a business that you go to downtown, if people buy a home, buy a business. We already own homes, and the business is coming to the middle of us. We didn't have a choice on that when we lived there.
I may be slanted.
We have a motion and a second on this floor, and I am calling for the roll call. I think we've discussed both sides enough, and the council should be able to make up their mind and
We
vote.
can't have a discussion about this?
I think.
I think we've discussed it quite a bit. I don't know if more discussion is going to solve anything. You guys were elected to make these decisions. I know they're hard decisions. Sometimes because you see both sides and maybe you relate to both sides. But I think we have a long agenda, and this one has been discussed enough that you should be able to make a decision.
Whatever. I disagree, but you're
I
in
do too.
charge.
You're not ready? You're not capable?
I'm
You wanna
capable
table
of a lot,
this?
but
You wanna
I
table
just,
this to another
I had a
meeting?
couple other things I wanted to, no. I just
That are
don't see
new-
why we have to ram it through without
that are-
discussing it
That are
further.
new that we haven't already discussed. You have new things to bring forward?
Never
That's
mind,
all I'm
Bonnie.
asking. That's all I'm asking.
that's
If you
fine.
have something new that hasn't been discussed.
Do what you're gonna do.
Yep.
Okay, roll call.
Hannah,
Yes, because I think it is workable in your neighborhood.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
No.
Okay, motion has carried. Hopefully, Cindy, you can work with your neighbors and both of you can be neighborly and work things out because there are changes in the world and the service she is providing and the family she is covering and helping out with this is very important. I too have been in similar situations, so. Moving forward to
And she
airport.
does know you'd have to renew this every year.
Yes.
Okay, so if things go south on it,
We send the renewal.
it can be readdressed next year.
And they will send out a thing to you to know when you have to renew it in a year. And you'll need to make sure you keep up your license, and things to that degree. Okay. Next on the agenda is under the airport, Chapter 25, Airport Board Amendment, Public Hearing and Waiver of Reading, a motion to hold the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I guess I don't even have that on this one, I just need a motion.
You're on the wrong one.
Okay. Motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearings, what I need first.
You have a motion from Hill and a second by Scharf, correct?
Yep.
Okay, motion from Hill, second by Scharf. To receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next is a motion to hold the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kurtz,
Second.
seconded by Scharf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are in public hearing in regards to Chapter 25 Airport Board Amendment.
This action simply changes the language on section, I believe it's 5, that discusses the hiring of the airport manager. The original language was restricted to contracting, and before you can hire an employee, that would have to be modified. Excuse me, it's 25.04 subsection 4. And the language simply was modified to give you the option to contract or hire.
Want to come up, Dan?
Good evening, council. Good to
Good
see you
evening.
again. Well, first, just want to thank you guys again for all of the time that you dedicated during the work session. Kind of talk about this, so I'll keep it pithy and simple this evening, but just wanted to kind of recap. The airport board is ready to recommend to you tonight that the airport manager position have the option to be a city employee type relationship, as we talked about in the work session. Just kind of recapping a couple of the points that we hit during that discussion. Considering the airport as a $6 million asset, there's 4 reasons that we believe this would be a wise move for us. Improved management infrastructure that gives the city as a whole the ability to be more specific in guiding day-to-day activities at the airport. Having a dedicated person, which allows more effective day-to-day management of the airport. They would be more focused on furthering the goals as set by the city. Redundancy based upon the situation we're currently in, as we discussed, which both council and city has done a great job mitigating. And also, we want to say thank you to our interim manager, Cole Norton, who is with us tonight, who has helped keep the airport going in this interim period. Also, this allows easier plug and play if we decide to go this route of future FBO entities as needed, because the manager position is not married to the contract position as an FBO entity, so we don't lose both. It gives us options. So with all that said, on behalf of the airport board, we speak in favor of amending city code to allow for the airport manager to be a city employment relationship, and hope that the council will support this recommendation as a step towards rebuilding and growing our airport. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Any discussion of council members or questions? We do have 3 or 4 of the board members here. Any more of the board that need anything they
I
want to
do have
say?
a question.
Okay.
If we go to if we would approve this, and if we went to the hiring of an individual by the city, who has control over that individual? Does the city manager, or does the airport board, or who's going to be directing and reviewing this person?
This would be set up similar to other positions where they would answer to the airport board on a operational standpoint, but day to day it would answer to the city manager and ultimately then through the city manager to the city council. It'd be a city employee, so we'd treat it like any other city employee.
Would this person attend like the supervisor's meeting?
I would envision this person being part of the department head team and participating with the city in that way.
Who sets the wages on this?
City council always sets the wages.
The other question that's come up is if we have this as a city employee, obviously they'd be limited to 40 hours or whatever our current department heads do. Who's going to cover, are we going to hire some part-time people or how are we handling that coverage?
To be specific, this position under wage and hour is a non-exempt position by definition. So it is not limited to 40 hours. Any employee can work more than 40 hours, but it would be overtime or time and a half, anything over the 40 hours. There has been discussion with the airport board as far as how do we cover that. There's a provision for seasonal employees, should we come to that point, temporary employees, but also an arrangement with a potential FBO to help with some coverage as well. And you're going to have that conversation shortly.
Because I guess I'm looking, if somebody's going to work, they can raise their wages pretty quick by working 60 hours a week and getting 20 hours of overtime.
Well, and I think that's a conversation, yeah, I'll let you.
Can I have that? Great question.
Sure.
Thank you very much for asking that. So I think as part of us setting the standards for this position as a board and then the council, of course, you guys have to sign off on that. You know, one of the things would be in the day-to-day activities would be to work on duties that limit that from getting out of hand, okay? The second thing that kind of what we talked about last time is having that relationship with an FBO. And we've kind of talked a little bit about this, of having it potentially in the contract language for an FBO to fill in, like say, on the weekends. Because they're there working, their job is to basically be at that airport and to further their business. So that's their primary interest. So how are you going to do that? You're going to do that by keeping those people there. So I think it's a great question, but with the new structure and now that we have the opportunity to hire a fresh FBO, that gives us this negotiating piece to kind of have on the table to kind of fill those gaps And I really would see the airport manager maybe working overtime in like emergency type situations. Let's say we got lights, the light system failed on the airport, getting assistance with that, in an evening or something. But as far as trying to pump fuel 24/7, et cetera, now that we have self-serve there, we've solved that problem, because otherwise this would be a very legitimate issue. So I think all in all, this will be a good plug-in for us, again, for the day-to-day stuff of managing the airport, but allowing the FBO to kind of be the additional hand, the additional stretch over point, because they have to work in synergy for this airport in order to succeed. Has to be everybody all in to make this work. So it's the FBO's best interest to carry the airport through as much as us as a city and as much as the airport manager is to move this forward as well.
Would the 40 hours be flexible where maybe he worked weekends, some weekends? And
Absolutely, yeah. We can set the schedule as we like as long as within the 40 hours. But yeah,
not always day hours or?
correct. And I think
I was just going to bring that up. During the summertime, you might have a lot of your pilots that are out there on weekends flying, and it might be important that he's there at that point, or she.
Yeah, and this was a conversation the airport board went through at length. I want to remind the airport board as well as the city council, the primary purpose of this position is, as airport manager, is the maintenance piece. It's making sure the grass is mowed, the runways are clear, the terminal building is clean. With the self-serve fuel system there, having somebody 24/7 to pump gas is mitigated. That's gone. So while we might have a lot of activity on the weekends, and I agree that's a busy time, that isn't the peak time for the airport manager, short of pumping the fuel, which has been taken care of. Not saying that there aren't issues that can arise or do arise, but most of what this position is doing is maintaining the airport.
And that's my concern, and that was my concern when this was expressed before. I just don't see it. I don't see somebody investing enough to, if we have a bad winter, you're gonna see 100, 200 hours of people plowing snow. Now, I don't wanna see the city street department pulled off, as it had been suggested at one point, to go out there and plow snow. Their primary focus is the city streets and Independence.
Correct.
So,
And that's where we talked about part-time seasonal help
so we're gonna spend more money.
being covered by fuel sales, because we haven't had that before.
The issue that we have with a bad winter, and again, that's a legitimate concern if we get that horrendous winter. We have it at the street department. What do we do there? I mean, we pay extra for overtime there.
Right.
Same scenario as what we would have at the airport. It doesn't change the
But when we had the
perspective.
other position and was married to the FBO, that person was given X number of dollars, and they took care of all that for us. So we had a fixed cost, and that was all accomplished. The mowing, the maintenance that you mentioned. And now we're looking at unforeseen expenses.
Yeah, that's the turn side of this that we have to think about, but also think about where we've been for the past several months. We lost everything. And with this type of infrastructure where we have that different management structure, we wouldn't be in this situation. Pardon me?
What did we lose? I mean, we lost a manager.
Correct. But as far as having the level of service with an FBO, for example, we don't have that. And I'm a user of that airport, and it's a ghost town. And I'm being very honest. I mean, even when I'm there, I can just feel on the grounds, this feels dead. It doesn't feel lively like it ever had. So I think, to your point, I think you have a very valid point with that. And that's something that we're going to have to work through. We're going to learn a little bit with this. It's a new concept. But to Al's point, also with the snow plowing, it depends on the season.
And
We may not need it at all in one season.
You're probably mowing 25, 30 acres out there.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of mowing out there. There's enough to keep them busy, that's for sure.
Well,
but,
yeah.
There are other options with the mowing too, though.
Yeah, I'd like to see him.
Bales there, so.
Yeah, I think that would be a.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dan, I had another question on the supervision issue. With the board being the immediate supervisor of the airport manager, day in, day out operation, is there somebody checking on it, or is that the city manager that is responsible for that, or?
Thank you. Yeah, good question. It would be the city manager, would be responsible for the day-to-day, in the weeds, kind of checking on things. We would be setting the vision and the operational standards for that position.
I do have one other, I've been involved with the airport for a long time, so I kind of know a lot of the landmines that we've run into. How does this address, one of the past problems we've had has been a conflict over having multiple FBOs working out there? Are we adjusting that, or are we just saying we're going to have an FBO that's going to be the go-to, that the city says this is our FBO? Or if we have 3 people that want to repair airplanes out there, I guess that's been the bugaboo in the soup for a long time.
That's a very simple issue, because we are not allowed to discriminate. If we have 3 people that want to repair airplanes at the airport as an FBO, they get to be there. If we don't have enough city-owned or municipal-owned hangar space, they might have to build their own. But we cannot restrict the number of service providers out there, as long as we're treating them all equitably. We don't have enough hangars to give everybody a hangar at the same lease rate, but we have to provide the opportunity for them if they want to.
So
They might want to rent the land or lease the land, for
Are
example.
we going to pay the FBO? If we hire an FBO, is the city going to pay the FBO money?
Well, I think that that's a separate conversation from this. There is an FBO lease that's on your agenda. It does not have us paying an FBO. It does have some discussion of incentives for being a service provider at our request. But again, we're not paying, and I know there's stories out there of cities in the state that pay an FBO to be on their airport grounds. We are not there, and that has not been a part of the discussion.
Thank you.
And I would just point out that this is providing that it can be, the manager can be an employee or an independent contractor. So it's not, this particular action is not committing the city to any particular course of action for a particular course of time. It's promoting the flexibility to have either of those, perhaps depending on what's available at the time that you're looking even.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
The only other piece that I want to make sure that you're aware of, this does suggest that we waive the first and second reading and adopt it on final reading, in part because P&N Flight Services has been very gracious with their time in service as our interim airport management crew, and I know it's weighing on them, and they've asked for us to accelerate as best we can this process moving forward for a number of reasons. But our contract with them has been extended a couple of times. And again, thank you to Cole and his crew, but that's why we're proposing it to be adopted on final reading.
Well, we have discussed this a few times, so.
Yes.
If you have no more discussion, can I get a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments?
So second.
Oh, Harmony. Is that
You're on the edge of her seat.
Hill, Sharp?
Hill and Scharf, put them wherever you want.
Okay.
No, listen.
Okay, all those in favor?
I'm assuming that was all in favor. Say aye.
Aye.
Since there was harmony in it to begin with. Then I do need a motion to waive a requirement of consideration of this ordinance prior to final passage and have this measure placed on its first reading and final passage for adoption pursuant to Iowa Code Section 380.3.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Kurt, second by Hill. Okay. I have a hearing aid that went bad on me. I kept hearing the battery going down. Roll call, please.
I just throw my.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried. Next item then, resolution creating airport manager position. Motion to adopt the resolution creating this position.
So moved.
What do we whisper?
Motion by Kurt.
Second.
I'm gonna throw it over here to Hayward since he hasn't talked as much. Sorry, Carl, I heard you
No,
too.
no. Yeah, you beat.
Motion from Kurt, second by Hayward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I
Aye.
need a roll call. Sorry, I just saw that. Roll call.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Motion is carried. The next under this section is the fixed-based operator lease.
We have a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention that would be somewhat unique from what we've had in this lease language previously. The space that is in question is, for the most part, identical to what we've had in the past. Mr. Norton has asked for 4 T hangars. I've suggested that two T hangars go with the lease and 2 additional ones be made available to them as long as there's vacancies. But suggested that, if we have the demand for all of the hangars, that we reduce that back to the 2. He is requesting fuel sales, with the city receiving a 15-cent flow fee. The airport board has recommended that the city retain fuel sales and provide Mr. Norton and his P&N Flight Services with a cost plus on the fuel. In other words, give them a fuel incentive. There is a unique situation here because P&N Flight Services is asking for a 5-year lease. I will tell you that we are not able by law to approve a 5-year lease tonight because that would require, anything over 3 years requires a public hearing. I know that they want to get this resolved by July 1st, if at all possible. And my suggestion would be twofold. Either we set the public hearing on this and have that at July 9th's council meeting, or we adopt a 3-year lease and bring it back for public hearing to extend it to a 5-year. That would give us some time to work through the process of modifying the agreement. But by law, 3 years is the most we can do without a public hearing.
What's this with the fuel sales? FBO will with fuel at cost plus 50 cents?
Well, that was what we had suggested is, currently our markup is greater than that.
Yeah.
That's been the discussion that we've had is, as part of the lease, as you read through the lease, it does identify the fact that when we have a void and we want some assistance in the airport management oversight, and the airport manager is not there, that puts a burden on the city, as opposed to being a default. We would ask for that service, and again, that would be one of the incentives to encourage him to provide that service in kind. Also, we're looking at a.
If that's the case, then why don't we just go back with a contract position? If we're trying to incentivize this much as we would have for a contract position with an FBO, we're gradually devolving back into that with this.
I disagree respectfully. I think what we're looking at is a very different layout. While we are incentivizing it, we are providing a $500 per month lease, but we're providing $220 a month, I believe it is, in existing leases that we would be handing to them. So we're covering a significant portion of the existing lease. Again, the fuel sales is going to be probably, and I think Cole has some things to share, and I shared his comments as well about fuel sales. That's going to come back to the council. How do you want to handle that fuel piece? Ultimately, that's your decision.
What's the lease breakdown on that, Al? The big building, that's how much on?
Well, the lease is $500. This is the proposal.
Doesn't most of that, or some of that go to the T hangars?
Really, what you're looking at is 2 T hangars or 4, however you want to couch that.
So there's $200 right there.
Correct. And then the large terminal building hangar, there's an equipment room in there, a classroom. and space in the reception office.
How much does that figure out?
It's just designed as a lump
Because I had
sum.
a guy call me tonight, he wants to rent the big hangar. He's willing to go $750 a month, and I think his money's good, or I wouldn't be bringing it up.
Well, I think that is an option. We have, to this point, retained the large hangar for a fixed-based operator because to maintain our enhanced airport status.
But we
have to
haven't
have-
voted on it yet.
Understand.
So this guy brought it up before it's voted on.
So the hangar at the terminal building, to this point, has been reserved so that we would have a space for a fixed-based operator,
This guy is a fixed-based operator.
which we are required to have.
This guy is a fixed-based operator.
Okay?
Do you have
So-
somebody that's made an application, or?
No, he called me on the phone.
This is.
But I'm sure it's not a bogus deal. It's,
Well, I haven't heard from anybody to this point, Denny. This has been the proposal that's on the table. Mr. Norton has asked and suggested he wants to be here. This is the lease. I haven't heard from anybody else.
but I'm just saying that's out there, and it could be resolved before the week's out if you want to. If you're interested in it.
No, it's up to you. I don't
Isn't it-
get, I don't
isn't
get
it-
to vote, Denny.
I know, but isn't it, maybe we should table this for 2 weeks. Wouldn't it be prudent to, the legal standpoint, to kind of look into that?
I don't think it's a legal issue. I think it's a.
You think it's a
question for
moral
council.
issue?
One of-
Yeah, throwing away taxpayers' money again. That's immoral as far as I'm concerned.
I guess
I-
what the
I guess I-
question here would be, has the airport board put that out there for other people to apply for the FBO?
Yes, we have.
Has it been in publications, or how did people?
Yeah, we primarily did it through our website, and I believe there was some other publications, I don't know the names that the city used, but
Yeah, we went through several. Indeed is one of them that was out there, the aviation arena. We've had several inquiries. We did talk to another fixed-based operator and made what I consider to be a very lucrative offer to, and they turned it down.
So I guess what I'm
They
getting at
wanted
is it's
more than
not a
what I thought.
smoke-filled back room.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
okay.
went through an entire interview process on all of these candidates. We vetted them out. We probably spent over 2 months going through details with all of these candidates and vetting them, starting with their resumes and then working it down to where we're actually meeting face-to-face with these people. And we actually had a full, actually grading scale for the candidates that we went through and discussed. So we tried to be very detailed and diligent with the whole process to try to make sure we get the right.
Denny, did this contact that you have any contact with the board?
To my knowledge, no.
How did he find out about the opportunity?
Well, he's local. Wouldn't it be prudent to wait 2 weeks to make this decision, give this guy a chance to come forward with retainer and whatever it takes?
I think we need to listen to Cole for one thing.
Excuse me?
I think we need to listen to Cole for one thing.
We could listen to Cole and ask him, though, wouldn't it be prudent to do that? We haven't made a decision yet.
In your publications that you requested the FBOs, who were they to contact, and was there a deadline?
They were to contact City Hall. Most of them came to me, and I shared them with the airport board. They did not put a deadline on it. It was basically open until filled.
But this person has not contacted City Hall.
Well, I don't know who this person is, so I don't have any way to answer that.
Good point.
All right, I would be remiss in not sharing my concern about somebody who suddenly has this interest but has never stepped forward and never shared anything about being the FBO at the airport. I don't know what to do with that because, this has been out there since January.
Right, so
And
2 more weeks isn't gonna hurt anything, right?
well, 6 months should be enough time for somebody to step forward if they were really serious about it too.
Yeah, but I mean, for the difference in the money, how much you talking about in the right hand opposed to $750?
I would have one more
Times
question.
12.
on
The
this.
interim is going to be gone by July 1.
The FBO, part of that is to provide mechanical services for airplanes, and Cole, you will have somebody that you're gonna, out of your pocket's gonna also be providing that service? Okay.
This guy is too. This guy's qualified.
I think he's had a lot of time. If he knows City Hall's number, I guess.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we table it for 2 weeks.
Okay, but my understanding is Cole has been our interim
Right.
manager
Right.
since our previous one left and asked to be out of his contract early. He needs to move on with his business and doesn't really want to be continuing on this interim without a change in the amount of money he's been getting.
Even so, we can't discriminate, he can still come here as an FBO. He's gonna have 4 T
I'm
hangers.
saying in managing the airport, we right now do not have a manager effective as of July 1 until somebody's either hired, which if you cover that, or you come up with something. 2 weeks' time is not,
I think
somebody come
though,
in after the fact.
I think though we have to deal with Denny's motion though. If nobody seconds it, it dies. If somebody seconds it, I think we need to deal with that.
I didn't hear a second, but
That's why.
I'm concerned.
Nobody
of
ever does
delay-
hear me.
I'm concerning delaying this.
Well, but
until
I
the next
I understand
meeting
what you're
when-
saying, but we need to
who's
deal
gonna be
with
managing the
Denny's
airport?
motion first.
Not to step on you, Cole, can I just add something real quick? This is a great example of what you guys just voted through with the airport manager that's there. We have that infrastructure, we have that manager piece there. If this gentleman wants to step up and become an FBO there, we can do that. We can have more than one FBO.
Right, that's
So-
what I said.
so-
All we're talking about is who's gonna get the lease for the big building, that's all it boils down to.
And if this guy's got a big business, for example, obviously we don't know anything about it, it's an opportunity for economic development. We put a hangar on the airport. We want to grow. That's the only way we're going to grow. So we have all of the pieces in place as we kind of move forward with this to be able to open that door for others. Whereas before, if we just had the airport manager tied with the FBO, then you run into people you get the conflict of interest thing going on. You got 2 FBOs, they feel competitive with each other, they get, you go back and forth. But now that we've separated the airport manager, you can have legitimate competing businesses on that airport. So I think where we're at the moment is we're peak season and we don't have a good full-blown FBO out there. And I think the FAA at some point is going to ask us, you're in enhanced status, where are you at? It's been since October of last year. So I think whether that, Cole's done very well for us. He's taken care of us in the interim. He's extended, he's made it work. So I think, in good faith and good favor, maybe the board so far thinks that he's the best FBO fit to get us going to the next realm. If this gentleman or business entity wants to step forward and we want to talk about that, I think absolutely, we can have that conversation. But I do believe we're getting close on it's been 6 months, another 2 weeks, but the board has put a lot of effort into this to try to get this moving forward. And I gotta be honest, with July encroaching us, we're already behind the curve. Peak season's already hit, and the word's, getting around to other pilots, et cetera, out there. There ain't much going on at the Independence Airport. So that's kind of where we stand on it. So if Cole is the person, then he's not out. We have that opportunity to have another discussion about that down the road. That's what's great about what we've just set up. So I just wanted to share that.
Personally, I think Cole's done an excellent job, I'd hate to see him be put out. I don't think this guy's trying to do that.
Sure. Yeah, so it could be an addition, it could be a growth
I
opportunity.
think he's a day late and $1 short though, Denny.
Well, maybe, it depends on how much you wanna take, if you wanna take the money or if you don't wanna take the money. That's what it
But we don't have it on the table, right?
Not tonight, no, but there's a
And-
motion right now to
And we have
table that for 2 weeks.
we have waited a long time for this.
Right?
I'm not hearing any seconds, so as far as I'm concerned, the motion to table is died for lack of second, so we still need to be addressing what's on the agenda right now is the fixed base operator lease with PNN.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the airport board on getting this organized. That was a lot right there. So the hard work is behind us. I have a plan. We're ready to do it. We're ready to execute it. We've been on autopilot for 8 months. But let's start with, I don't even know where to start. Let's start with, I just want to compare the last agreement you had, since the manager and the FBO agreements were completely separate before, and they still are now. So this hasn't changed. The FBO agreement is what we're talking about. And if I don't get the fuel sales, it might be a deal breaker. It probably is a deal breaker. And I'm not asking for anything more that was in the previous lease agreement, but I am accepting an airport in much worse condition, and I'm willing to rebuild it. So basically, I want the deal the last guy had, or something better, and that's what I'm willing to accept. I understand the city has things to pay for with the fuel, but I want to build this airport up to something where when this contract renews in 3 years, and let's just do it so we can just get it done one step at a time. But I want it to be where I come back in 3 years and I've rebuilt this airport enough that I do have to pay a lot to be here, because I don't mind doing that where there's value. Some things I want you to think about with the fuel is, one, I have flight schools elsewhere. I could run a really large amount of traffic through the Independence Airport as a fuel stop. Otherwise, I have no incentive to do that. I'll just leave everything as is for our routing. The fuel cost is $3.68. So fuel plus cost is 20 cents more than area competition has it available to everyone. And I can also get fuel at cost plus 50 cents. I have better deals elsewhere. So that's not interesting to me. That adds no value. I threw hangars out there because that is a place that can be value added to our operation. I have 4 aircraft that I want to have here exclusively for flight training and charter. Aerial tours, rides, aerial photography. But I wouldn't get too caught up on the hangars. Something else to think about the fuel is every time we get a shipment of fuel, the price has to be adjusted. We talked about the airport manager, or you guys talked about the airport manager already having a lot to do. What are we going to do seasonally and that type of thing, which I'm willing to help with. But do you want to add that burden of going on to 15 different websites to update the fuel price every time you get a shipment? Does an airport manager that's working for the city, do they have the incentive to sell fuel and bring in traffic? For example, during the week of the world's largest gathering of aircraft, Midwest FBOs send out advertisements. They offer things like free airplane wash. And this is in Wisconsin, so all this traffic's coming through Iowa. You know, oh, we're going to put out cookies and lemonade. We're going to wash your airplane for you. We're going to sell discounted fuel and oil. I don't have an incentive to do those things and draw the traffic in without fuel sales. And in addition to staffing the weekends, I would just have people, probably just have people there mainly when we're doing flight training. Does the city have a good understanding of contract fueling and fueling with flight departments? And I'm pretty sure no, because it took me 3 years to learn that myself, doing it every day. There's extra expenses associated with the city having to fuel, which would be listing and advertising the city as a separate FBO. I already have those listings paid for as a flight school. I can add in fuel for no cost, whereas you'd be starting over. You could budget anywhere from $500 to $1,500 a month just in advertising.
Cool. Can I interrupt just a
Yes.
second? I have a question.
Mhm.
The city made a significant investment in the self-serve fuel equipment
Yes.
that we paid for with city funds, not through any airport grant or anything like that. And the original understanding was we were going to retain the fuel sales until we had recouped the cost of that equipment.
Where are we at with that?
Actually.
That would be my question.
We were just gonna receive, it was just.
I understand.
No, we were going to keep it until it was paid for.
That's what we thought.
As of,
That
as
was-
of 12 noon today, we were short $1,956.33.
How could you make that kind of money in that much short a time, $18,000?
Fuel sales and the savings on the airport manager contract.
So you already paid for it for you.
I don't
Not-
know. I've been in a lot of
it's a
businesses,
joke.
and I'll
It's
tell
a
you,
joke.
I never seen one
Um,
pan out that good that quick.
So,
We ought to write a book about it.
Well,
in our spare time.
Yeah.
The issue that we have is, I mean, you're within $1,956 of paying for it. That includes the equipment itself, as well as the labor. Most of the labor was donated by Independence Light and Power, but they did have to buy some additional materials so they could bury the conduit and, the extra work that they
We
were.
still had 18,000 plus in it, right? Right?
Our total cost for the project was $27,086.62.
Started out to be 18, but there's 27,000 reasons not to be letting that go.
What we have in the conversation with Cole is, he said he wants similar to what was there before. A couple of things that have changed, we have proposed instead of a 10-cent fuel flow fee, the airport board had asked for 15 cents, and the insurance requirements are significantly higher than what they had been previously based on our risk transfer guidelines from ICAP. So,
Is that something that Cole's willing to accept?
Yeah, the 15 cents, yes.
Okay.
But if I could
The
finish.
other question I have is, would you be willing to take fuel at cost until we're done paying for the system?
The $1,900? Well, let me finish though, because I'm basically still gonna save you money, and here's how. The city would need to send someone immediately to training, because I have the certification for AB operator that's required by the DNR, and also the training that is required for AvFuel to protect you with $50 million of liability insurance, and that has to be done in person. And that's going to cost more than $1,900 for you. And, I mean, I just don't understand how I could take a worse deal than what the previous FBO had when there's less value of an airport here. I have to rebuild it myself.
But we're also
Physical
replacing
plan
part
is
of,
not.
part of him with a city employee manager. So
Well,
instead of,
right.
it's not simply what we paid him that you're looking at. You're looking at
Yes.
the salary for the manager in addition to what you're requesting. That's what we're
I'm-
replacing the airport, that's what we're replacing the previous operator with.
Right, which actually, I think I see what you're saying, but it's actually, it's really a disadvantage to me to have it be an employee position. That's something that I understand the
No, not you as the
redundancy.
city manager, but we're looking, I assume the board is.
Or not city man, to have a city employed
employee
airport
to
board.
manage the airport but not be the FBO. So we're looking at that cost in addition to what this is gonna cost.
It was
Pardon?
That cost is already there. We paid the other FBO operators as a manager.
Right.
Yeah, so.
With X number of dollars, yeah. It was a swap. He was the FBO, could charge, and he made his additional money based on that. And still had to perform the functions of of maintenance.
We paid for the functions, the mowing and the snow removal, all that sort of thing already. It's the same as we are. with, Manning.
Now with a 40-hour week position, we won't.
I don't think it sounds like a bad deal for Cole to take over the fuel cells. If we get 15 cents, we used to only get 10 cents, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, but it was our business. How many people do you know up and down Main Street giving away a business?
I don't want to be a gas station operator.
Hmm?
What? I don't want to be a gas station operator.
That's why we put the self-serve fuel. That's why we spent $18,000.
I would
Get
say,
this straightened out, and then all of a sudden, now we want to give it away. Now, does that make any sense to you? It does.
one of your options, and not to put words in Cole's pocket here, but if it's the $1,956, which we did say we were keeping until it was paid off, and I still think that's a prudent thing to do, but that might be something that Cole would be willing to help us accelerate to. If he were to take over fuel sales, we've got several thousand gallons of fuel in tanks out there that he would be responsible for buying, just like we bought it when we took over the fuel sales when the previous FBO left.
And you're willing to do that?
I think, why don't we set, July's a busy time, why don't we set July 15th as the fuel sale switch date? That's what I would propose. To finish paying for that. I think July, I mean, that should be enough time to pay for that. And then we have a hard date.
I think we should probably allow him to have fuel at cost during that time.
And those are all things that you as a council can put on the table.
Yeah.
So at this point, the real question is, the FBO lease, the only folks that can enter into a lease agreement is the city council. What we've tried to do is share with you the airport board's recommendation as well as Cole's position. And again, as you can hear from Cole, I think the biggest sticking point in this lease is going to be the fuel sales and what the council's willing to do with that.
Well,
one way or the other.
let's get off center. I'd make the motion that we approve the fixed base lease operator with Cole, July 15th, taking over fuel sales until that time he could purchase fuel at cost from the city.
Okay, and then we were looking at two different options for, okay, if I don't, which one wouldn't be one I accepted, but if there were no fuel sales, it was gonna be a different rate than if we were doing
Well,
fuel
you were gonna
sales,
get
so.
fuel- You would
what
get
I'm-
fuel sales on July 15th.
Right, what I'm proposing is to enter into the FBO lease agreement July 1st, fuel sales beginning July 15th, at cost until then. The monthly rate of $500 a month, including the large hangar and 2 T hangars.
Yeah, I think that's what Al had outlined, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what's in here.
And I believe the city at some point should purchase their own testing equipment, so it stays with the fixed equipment that's there, and that's just the whole theory of redundancy that I wanted the airport management position to be as it was before. I would have happily done that, but I understand the idea of the redundancy that they're looking for. So for that reason, I am in support of it, and so I also think the testing supplies for your fuel should go with your equipment.
Testing
Our-
stuff was out there, it disappeared,
I don't
and we did own it.
much
It just
about
up
that.
and Disappeared.
Fuel test equipment. We had to have it.
Not if we didn't have fuel sales. It went with the FBO who had the fuel sales.
Yeah, but it was theirs to begin with.
Airport board, my notes say that you're recommending that we retain fuel sales and provide FBO with fuel at cost plus 50 cents. Are you okay with this? Not okay with this?
I would say as a board, we are in favor of retaining the fuel sales from the city's perspective, because that gives us options for additional revenue to cover some of the things we talked about in the airport manager position, and it just gives us options, period, in that regard. So I know this is a major sticking point, but I feel on behalf of the board that if this causes us to go back to the drawing board, then we'll have to go back to the drawing board and act quickly. But as a board, I feel that we are pretty firm on trying to retain fuel sales from the city's perspective. That I think is good for us.
The cost plus is adjustable, that's a
Yeah,
negotiating point.
exactly. The Cost plus is negotiable.
See, this is one of the reasons we went to an airport board, is to listen to what their recommendations are, so now we're back in another conundrum here.
Well, if that's what they want, then I'll withdraw my motion.
If that's going to be a sticking point, may I suggest to the council that we, for Cole's sake and the work that he's put into it, provide him fuel at cost until we can get this resolved? I don't think it's fair for him to be left dangling out here while we work through it, and I think it's a fair conversation.
Well, we're still back to, okay, am I gonna be on autopilot another month? I wanna get this going. We have a lot of work to do. It's July. This summer's gonna go by. Do you wanna keep the fuel sales or do you wanna keep an FBO? Because I don't think there's a lot of people lined up.
Cole, with all due
Sounds
respect,
like a threat.
this is the first time we've been approached by this.
Okay.
You know, we've let the airport board do their due diligence on trying to come up with a plan of action and how we're gonna do it. And I think you gotta let us have some time to talk this through, make some decisions. To just throw something out there for a multi-million-dollar airport out there,
But we can't keep him hanging out there forever either.
I understand
Well,
that.
He's done us a good
What's wrong
job.
with
and-
the 2 weeks deal?
Ideally, Cole and the airport board will sit down and get some sort of an agreement and present a joint lease to us that they both can live with, and then we can vote on that. You know, that may be,
That makes the most sense.
that may be a fairy tale, but I think that's where we gotta start.
I totally understand your concerns and what you're wanting to do, but you need to also kind of understand where we're at too.
And I totally understand the airport board's standpoint. I get both of your sides, but you gotta get together.
Well, my question to you is, do you believe that another FBO is gonna come here and accept less value of an agreement than what's been here when the airport?
I don't think that's the
State.
question that
Oh,
we
we
have in
can
front of us right now.
Answer that question.
That's not the
These
question.
guys have been doing all the
All right.
legwork. How could we answer that question? There's no way.
We haven't been in the loop at all.
All right,
Okay.
so what do we wanna do, in 5 or 6 days here?
I have to reframe the question. The question is, do we want to approve a 3-year fixed-based operator lease? And the terms are largely negotiable. I mean, there's flexibility in those terms, as you've heard. But what's in front of you is a lease for a fixed-based operator to have the terminal building. That's the whole issue. Not to take away from what Cole is referencing as his interim airport manager services. That's not part of this discussion. I understand his concern, but that's not part of the discussion. The issue that we have is, how do we handle this lease? If the council wants to put it back in the airport board's hands until July 9th, that's your prerogative. If you want to take an action on it tonight, you've got the framework. Part of what the airport board has wrestled with is, you know, we're looking at some fairly different viewpoints or philosophies on how the airport functions in the fixed-based operator capacity. So trying to give you both sides of the story, if you will, both options. And I appreciate what you're saying, John. You're right. The council has not had a front and center hand in this to this point. So
And I'm back to the same thing that I've talked about time and time again. We don't have options to discuss things enough before we're pinned to a corner and have to make a decision. This is a big deal. And the airport board, who we entrusted to make some really intelligent decisions for us, has done a lot of work on this. And I hate to see us just rush through something and not go with, or listen to their recommendations and act upon those. Cole has concerns. We have concerns. But for us to make an immediate decision tonight, I don't think is real prudent. I don't know.
Do FBOs usually have the fuel?
it's fairly common for an FBO to have fuel sales. This would not be a stretch.
I mean, you
But-
sit there and say how dead the airport is. He tells us if we do the fuel thing, what he's gonna bring into us. And with the flight school, I would think that
I-
could and should easily happen.
I do think one of the things we got to be careful here, and that's why I withdrew my motion when you indicated you were solid on the fuel sales, because we don't, this is the first test of the airport board, and if we go jockeying around and doing things that they're not agreeable to,
Then
we
why did
basically
reform
cut the legs out from under them.
Bob, thank you for that support. We appreciate that. It's been a really difficult conversation, and there's been a lot of back and forth. We've had a lot of meetings. The main reason for wanting to retain the fuel sales is the issue Mike addressed. You know, we've got to pay for some seasonal help. That's a source of funding for that. That's probably the number one reason. It gives us an additional source as things come up, you know, repairs or whatever. But the main reason is to pay for the seasonal help with the mowing and the snow removal.
But if you're not bringing those guys in to
Isn't the
get
city
fuel
gonna pay
cells-
for that?
Yeah, but that.
Well, then they
if we
should have the money for off the sale, shouldn't they?
Well, that was our thought process. That's why we decided we wanted the fuel sales retained by the city. It would be a source to pay.
Well, then what are we arguing about? I thought you wanted to keep them over here until the right end. Now you're saying the city should.
No. No, you misunderstood,
Not at all.
Danny.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I spoke confusedly. I do that periodically, but we want the city to keep the fuel sale money.
You want us to keep the
We want
fuel
the city
sale
to
money?
have it. And what the reason for that is to pay for the help, like Mike was talking, you know, with snow removal in a bad winter, help with mowing or whatever. That was our primary purpose for keeping the money. That, and along with repairs and upgrades and everything, we'll have a source of funding for some small things like that.
I thought Cole was talking about, he was adamant
wants-
about him keeping it.
Cole is saying that. Cole is speaking for him as the FBO. And we're
But you're
speaking-
saying, you're on the committee and you're saying the city should keep it.
That was our recommendation, and that was the reason why. And then, you know, we're bringing it to you guys. This is what we recommend. You guys are the decision makers. I just thought I'd make sure that you understood why we were recommending that, so you'd have some information to think about when you do come time to vote.
I'm glad you showed up tonight.
Okay.
If we follow your recommendation and we lose him as an FBO potential, are there other FBO potentials out there?
Well, of course there are. Denny just mentioned there's some guy that's interested. Cole brings a lot to the table. Don't get me
Oh, yeah.
wrong. I want Cole out there. He runs a top-notch organization. He's got a lot of resources. I wish you had your brochure you brought to the last meeting with us. There's a lot of things that'll happen out at the airport if we bring him. So I want you to be aware, you know, both sides of the equation. We think it's beneficial for the city to retain the money. We think it's beneficial for the city to have Cole out there.
We can't have both.
Oh, well,
But
I
us
don't
city
know.
people
we
here aren't
could.
gonna get,
Maybe we
we
could.
aren't gonna get fuel sales, us people
Or-
here.
We offer him a good deal on his fuel pricing. That might help him too.
Well, we can't do that and retain the fuel price.
To be fair, we do, currently the language says $500 a month. To Cole's point, if we retain fuel sales, that was $350. And just so we don't lose sight of it,
$350 a month?
for the lease rate on
For
the
the
hangars.
two hangars and the main one?
Yeah.
You used to get $350 just for the main one.
Understand, well, I understand, that was the discussion that we had with Cole, is it was $350 for the terminal hangar, equipment room, the classroom that's defined in there, and the T hangars.
Okay, well, that's a heck of a deal
Uh,
for Cole.
Great deal, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
If
Yeah.
I understand, but if we take the fuel sales out of it. and the
No, I
city
understand.
retains
I know
it,
you got, you don't have to negotiate. I go along with you, Al. I know he does a fine job. I mean, I'm not out there watching him or anything, but I hear it through the community and everything. But, there again, when we bought that equipment out there, taxpayers' money, you're right, people expected us to keep that. And just as the board done, they come up with what Mike had talked about, we need those extra monies. Who knows? You might need it here, you might need it there, whatever, but they'll be there. And the taxpayers should be confident that we took their money and put it to a good use.
But Carol, how are we gonna get the fuel sales increased?
Well, you got other FBOs gonna come too, Deb.
Do we?
You might. You don't know.
If you're going to give away the opportunity to sell fuel, you may as well put it in Cole's hands. Either we keep it and we run it as our business, or mean, you've got a gentleman here that's asking for it. I don't think that there's a matter of, looking for another FBO down the road.
Wouldn't the
to
person
do
we
this.
designate as manager or hire as a city employee manager out there be in charge of fuel sales for us?
If we retain fuel sales, yes, they would be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of that operation.
But there would be no incentive for him
No.
to increase fuel sales.
We want it to be full service. We want people to come up and greet you at the airplane. I just don't know what else to say. It's been 8 months. If everyone hasn't been communicating here, what does that have to do with me?
Because we were excluded from the process.
Yep. Excluded.
Excluded.
You and the board need to come to an agreement.
Right.
Well,
Then the
if we're,
board will
if they're
present
sticking to
us-
that and I'm
What
sticking
if
to
we
this,
wanna
we're
keep
not
the
gonna be
fuel
in
sales?
agreement.
Well,
I agree 100% with Cole. It's about customer service out there, and that's what's going to build the reputation and the level of that airport. What the FBO operator ultimately does really means a lot. The airport manager is going to be important, but the FBO is going to be the one that's really going to bring people to that airport.
Well, our problem is all we have is we can either approve or disapprove the fixed base operator lease that's on our agenda. So we might as well vote on it, one
Is
way
that
or
with
the
or
other.
without the fuel sales, though, Bob?
But we've got to nail that
now
down.
read it. It's in
Not
here.
right now.
Well,
We are discussing a fixed-based operator lease, no.
Is it public discussion?
No, no, I'm telling you, no. We have a discussion, enough people involved in it, we do not need any more. You have a board here with four of the 5 members here to discuss it. They have given you their recommendation, you got it. Wait till I stand up and take a break here in a minute.
Mike, the fuel sales that's written in here is not clear because of this back and forth discussion and not having the council's directive on which way are you willing or interested in going, because we have said we're going to maintain fuel sales until it's paid for. We've had some conversations about how long do we maintain it in perpetuity. I don't want to take that decision away from the council, so.
But Al, when we first put that in out there, I was under the understanding that we were taking over the fuel business out there. We were gonna maintain the fuel business. We put, well, it turned out to be $27,000, but it started off to be 18. Either way you look at it, it's a large chunk of money of the taxpayers' dollars. Large chunk of money.
We've got most of it back, though.
How do you figure that? If you bought a brand-new dump truck and you got your $18,000 back, would you give it to the driver? Just give the truck to the driver? I don't think you would.
But we'd be getting services in return.
Yeah, he might haul a load of sand for you once in a while. But I'm talking about being in a business. Mike Lanius always said, we should run this like a business, and we've never done that, that's for sure. If you run it like a business, you don't pay a business off and then just give it away.
So
That's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
The lease, as in our packet, says, city agrees to permit lessee use of aviation fueling equipment for purposes of conducting fuel sales. Lessee will be provided fuel at cost plus 50 cents for lessee's aviation activities for the duration of the lease. That's the lease we have in front of us.
I want to clarify, I put both provisions in there because I have two stances. One from Cole saying he wants to use our equipment to provide fuel sales, in which case we would have a 15-cent flow fee. He also, the board wants to retain fuel sales, and we said as a negotiating point, cost plus 50 cents. Is that number flexible? Absolutely. It's a point putting in there saying, hey, look, there's a way for us to provide an incentive, fuel at 3 cents. I mean, I don't know. It's whatever that cost might be. That's the point that we have to come to is who's going to maintain those fuel sales? And the
What would
airport board-
theoretically, what would 15 cents a gallon return to us a year?
Well, the last load
Ballpark.
of,
We're only getting 10.
Oh, right.
We're gonna have a workshop on July 2nd. Why don't we just go over this at the workshop July 2nd?
Yeah.
It's 6:30.
Can I just say a quick thing here? I think this might have been a little bit more short-circuited than what we were anticipating from the board's sake. What we really need help from the council on is just understanding, because this is part of the negotiation. This obviously isn't baked. We're not on the same page. I'm not, as on behalf of the board, I'm not bringing formally this lease to you, okay? We need to talk about a few things, as you saw tonight, and I apologize that that's come to your desk this evening, and you feel like you've been left out of the loop. That's not how we wanted this proposed as a board, okay? What we do need to understand, though, is part of this negotiation, because obviously, as you can see, it's a major sticking point for Cole. And again, he's done a great job for us. But what that is the city willing to keep the fuel sales or give it up? And that's a huge part for us in the negotiation in order to even bring this to the table as a final lease agreement for you guys to review and say yay or nay. So I think backing all up here, we've treaded a lot of different directions. I think what we need help and guidance from you on is are we willing to give up the fuel sales or are we not? The board feels we should keep it, but it's ultimately the council's decision. So we just wanted to come to you this evening for guidance. I think this got maybe a little bit misaligned, so that way we can have discussions. If Cole doesn't want to be part of that, then we have to, come up with a different solution quickly.
But when you say that the airport's dead, how do you plan on increasing the fuel sales?
By getting a good FBO in there that's willing to work with us. And I feel like we're on two different pages right now, unfortunately. And I don't know how that happened, but that's not how this was supposed to be presented this evening. So I'm just letting you know where the board's at on this, and wanted to let you guys know that this seems to turn a little bit of a mess, and it shouldn't have been presented this way. But we really do need some guidance, at least this evening, of are you guys willing to give up the fuel sales or not? So whatever FBOs we
I
talk
don't know
with.
how we can make that decision, and talking about it for a half hour or an hour.
I think Bob
Seems
has the
like
right
days.
idea, wait a while.
I think we gotta wait till our next workshop.
And that's great.
And
That's
you're talking
totally
about
fine.
a 3 or 5 year commitment
Yeah.
based on that decision, so.
And I think we just wanted to start with the question of, is that a question that is something you guys would be open to or not? That gives us direction, so we can talk about terms and all that and come to you, and then we can talk about more details
Well, we
about
have you guys'
the length.
recommendation, and that's what we're going by, is the fact that we keep the fuel sales. So,
That's what we had an airport board.
Correct, but that's,
task force to come up with all this.
Correct.
Worst thing we can do is cut your legs off Monday. and
exactly.
You guys come up
If
with
you
And we-
recommend that, then I support.
and we appreciate that, but we're also a team. So it's bi-directional. We want to hear from you on this, because this is a big decision for the city. And that's why we were coming to you this evening to kind of get that idea, but obviously this got a little skewed. So that's where we're coming from on this. So yes, we are here to recommend, but we also want to hear from you. You are the deciding body for us, and we want to make sure we get something to you that you like, that you're in support of, so we're not spinning our wheels, that we can be efficient in this decision.
Well, basically, it comes down to the fuel cells, because I don't think anybody is in disagreement over what the lease agreements are, or are we?
Well, let's table this till July 2nd. We can talk about it.
But are you giving them direction, and at this point you're agreeing with their request to keep the fuel cells, that the board is wanting?
No, if we're giving them any direction. I think we're tabling it.
We're tabling it till a July 2nd workshop.
There's several things we can work through and come to your meeting prepared to
Okay.
present and give you some background information and work from there.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan.
I won't be present, I'll be in Colorado, so hopefully proposing to my lady. So I apologize for not being here, but I just wanted you guys to know where we're at, and we want to keep that confidence with you as a board, and we want to keep a good reputation with you guys. We work hard for you, and we want to make this right, so we want to work together with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we're doing nothing on the fixed-based operator lease tonight? That's being, okay.
Do we need to make a motion to table it?
I think you would be best to take action to table it. I mean, that, you can still talk about it on the 2nd, but that moves it to the July 9th.
I'd make a motion to table this until next council meeting, July 9th.
I tried that one.
Second.
Yes, you did.
Okay. But
Oh, that's right, it was Denny that made that, not Bob, that's right. Now I understand.
But we
You have a
We
motion and
can,
a second.
okay, we can still get our manager on invite.
This is not about a manager, this is about
Because
an
we did that
FB.
before and approved that. Okay,
It's about an FBO lease.
okay. Motion is second, and I will give you, that you made the motion originally.
Really?
Let him make the motion.
And
Want me to-
Bob-
want me to
and
make it
Bob is
over?
seconding it to table this.
Yes.
Everybody know what they're voting on? Do you want a roll call on this?
Yes.
Please.
Okay,
This is a motion to table this conversation till July 9th. Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Hannah,
No.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
motion carried. Next on the agenda, if I dare move on, is the FAA agreement.
This is a funding agreement from FAA for the design phase of the taxiway widening project. It provides $59,000 to the city. We match it with $6,600. And again, this is the design phase. This action permits the mayor to sign the funding agreement. They have to have council action to do that.
I'd make the motion.
Motion by Kurtz,
Second.
second by Hayward. Need a roll call on this also?
Yes. Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Hayward.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on. I think we lost half of our audience for moving on, but hopefully. Public hearing on proposed resolution of necessity. Motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing in regards to Second Street Northeast. Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Did I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Scharf.
Second.
Second by O'Laughlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next, I need a motion to hold the public hearing in regards to Second Street Northeast.
So moved.
Motion by O'Laughlin.
Second.
Second by Scharf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are in public hearing in regards to the proposed resolution of necessity for the 2018 Second Street Northeast paving project. And I know we had homeowners here, but I also saw some leave. I think we still have one. Are you going to speak for the people that already left because it's getting late?
It's getting late.
Thanks for-
People like staying up late. I gotta get up early in the morning, get out there and go for Hayward does. So, no.
Sorry.
Anyhow, I'm Lonnie Bowles from 813 Second Street Northeast. Anyhow, what is the width of this street going to be now? Is it going to be narrow or is it gonna be wider?
31 feet, I think Brian is still here, 31 feet curb to curb. Is that back to curb?
Is that the same thing as what's on 11th Avenue by, or is that wider?
I can't answer that without,
Okay.
I don't have that off.
That, well, then, you know, okay. So, there's concern, I was just wondering about it, because if it's as narrow as 11th, and you're gonna have that much traffic going on it, you're probably going to have to, put up no parking signs, or allow parking only on, one side like they do on Sixth Avenue Southwest here. Because if you go, you know, that street next to the old Medical Associates, you run two cars, you know, opposite directions there, you barely can have one car parked there.
Well, again, 31 feet, I'd let Brian talk about the parking piece to it, but that should be adequate width for 2 lanes of traffic.
You want to come up here closer? I think we're still on at least Facebook if we're not on TV.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are capable of doing the math also, but a 31-foot street provides for two 12-foot traffic lanes with, you know, an additional 7 feet that's for curb. So if you take those traffic lanes down to 10 foot each, it would accommodate parking on one side. Now, a large part of this project is because of the detour route. A lot of the reason that we're doing the project is the detour route. So during the time when First Street is closed, it would be advisable to restrict parking during that time, as Mr. Bowles has pointed out.
That makes sense.
And then after the construction's over, Brian, it'd be okay to have one side parking, you think, or?
Yeah, on a typical, that's what most of your streets are, 31 feet back to back, and you could do one side parking, especially for the limited amount of traffic that will be on that after the First Street project is closed, local street.
So after the project's done, we'll still only have parking on one side.
That's what we're looking
Yes,
at.
that's what we're looking at.
Limited amount of traffic, I don't know why you couldn't have,
Why wouldn't it go back to just the way it is now?
that street doesn't, on a normal basis, doesn't get much traffic at all. It's all local people that live right there.
You don't have a lot of parking in the streets out there, do you?
No, not that much, but from time to time, yeah. Well, you just park in the ditch, it's no problem.
Kind of no end to it.
Well, it wasn't until the Mid-America decided to dig out the ditches and didn't realize the culverts were already plugged. But they've been that way for 20 years. But anyhow, okay. Next question is, where should the people who live on this street park when it's being worked on? 8th Avenue is a very busy street. 9th Avenue, well, that becomes a dead end, but that, you know, that's just like what we have right now. So, and it's, actually, it's in worse shape than ours is right now, so. Would it be a problem, you know, where do you want these people to park, you know, because half of them are older than I am.
What about head-in parking by First Ward Park on the south side there?
It's too far away from
That's way too far.
Hey, you're talking
Oh, but
about
you
one
can
lady
also-
that's 85, another one's 78, and you want them to walk up to First Street.
How far down? Oh, yeah, that is too far for that. I was thinking it was a block off. I was thinking,
I know when we did my street, we had walkaways.
9th Avenue is gonna be
the best bet.
9th
the
Avenue, yeah.
best.
And,
you know,
and-
that- it's not ideal with that apartment building there, I know.
No, because they're parking on both sides of the street there already.
Absolutely.
People that like exercise, the medical associates parking lots right there.
Yes, it's another possibility, you know, which
Shuttle
I
bus.
don't argue
Yeah.
with that. Would there be a problem if they were to park on the bridge? Even though, I mean, driving to somebody's driveway and back up in there or something like that from, you know, that's gonna be a problem.
Well, it's gonna be closed, so,
Well, not the Second Street Bridge.
Second Street Bridge.
during the construction, though.
Well, they're gonna be on the other side, basically. Now, walking over there is gonna be a problem.
And I'm not sure the construction, the concrete trucks may come in from the east and back up, and they may run it from 8th Avenue to the bridge, in which case, obviously, they couldn't park on the bridge. I don't know how the contractor's gonna do the job.
We don't, okay.
If he's gonna start at the bridge and pour the other way, it's gonna be blocked off, so then it might not be an issue, but it depends on which way he's gonna go.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just questions.
Does, who own, down there, there's a backstop?
Yeah.
Is that private property?
No, that's
City Park.
cities. City Park now, that's,
City Park, is
They
that,
could- yeah, after-
could we allow parking in there during construction?
You get wet or
yeah,
it's down their way.
Yeah, I
you
know.
get wet, you'll sink.
But I'm just saying normally, if
Provide
it's not raining.
for the older.
Yeah. No.
No, there's nothing wrong with permitting parking in that park area. I'd have the concern about
Yeah.
how damp it is, but I don't think the bridge is an ideal situation. I think it, I don't know, Brian, I'm not aware of the width offhand, but
Yeah, it is gonna become a dead end at that point, so, parking on the bridge is certainly an option. I'll tell you that part of the contract documents do require the contractor to provide access to the home, so if they are pulling out part of a sidewalk or something like that, we do have temporary gravel surfacing that the contractor is required to put in place to maintain pedestrian access to and from the residences.
Can they do one side of the street at a time, or is that how they do it?
We can talk with the contractor about staging for this short of a stretch. Typically, it's kind of like Mr. Kurtz said, that they want to get in there, pave it with a slip form, 31-foot wide paver, and let the cure time happen and open the street back up. So
If we don't do that, you're just gonna increase the amount of time it has to be closed.
Right, and every, right. Every time you stop that paver or make a joint, you're building a bump too. So it's another thing to consider when you start looking at staging of a residential street. We'd probably look at it differently. If it was an arterial or a collector, we would look at staging it. But for this short of a stretch in a residential neighborhood, it's pretty standard that we close the street, maintain pedestrian access, and the residences are left to find parking, in adjacent blocks.
What's the street that goes by the ball diamond there?
Ninth Avenue.
Ninth? That's gonna be a dead end. Can they park along that?
You have the apartment buildings there, and you're already parking both sides there. And I have a feeling you drive in there, now you're gonna have to try to get into the driveway to turn around to get back out. So it's a possibility. It's a possibility, so. But, and which brought up another thing, and this is for the ones that live on the corner of Second and Eighth. If Eighth Avenue gets damaged, are they, as taxpayer, property owners on that street, have to help pay for taking care of the repairs of Eighth Avenue?
It get damaged by what? What do you mean? By
Well, all the stuff that's going on, yeah.
The bypass traffic and the,
Well, no, you're talking about during this construction, if it gets damaged.
It gets damaged, and now we're gonna have to repair it. They wanted to know if they were gonna have to help pay for it.
well, to this point, the council's only used special assessments for major reconstruction or rehab. We have not done it for maintenance.
Okay, well, that took care of that, so.
And isn't this also for the curb and gutter rather than the street that they're being assessed for?
Yes, for
Yes.
ordinance of curb and gutter, yes. And did I read this letter right? They're also gonna replace all the sidewalks?
I missed that part.
Oh, it says PCC sidewalk. What does that mean?
Well, if they have to, there are places where the sidewalk will be intersected, and they do have to replace that piece.
Okay,
As part of that curb and gutter.
okay. I was just wondering, when I read that, I'm going, oh, okay.
So do you have other questions?
Nope,
Even
I-
some of the other ones that had to leave earlier?
That's what a couple
Were
of them were,
they
so.
pretty much
Yeah.
covered on that?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging in there with us.
Thanks for your patience.
Any other discussion, or are you ready to close the hearing? And
make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
motion and second to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments. Roll call?
No.
You don't need a roll call on this? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Then we move down to resolution of necessity. Motion to approve resolution of necessity for the 2018 Second Street Northeast PCC paving project.
So moved.
Motion by Kurtz,
Second?
second by O'Laughlin. Any other discussion, or we go to roll call?
Sharp,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next on the agenda.
Question, something you
sorry.
said. Okay, it has nothing to do with this. The Old Medical Associates parking lot, are we allowed to even park there? Isn't that private property?
That is private property. If that was something that was viewed as a viable option, I would contact them to find out. But that is private property.
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah. Motion to approve set out ratifying the preparation of the detailed plans and specifications and the preparation of the notice of hearing and notice of bidders and form of contract covering 2018 Second Street Northeast paving project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, seconded by Kurtz. Roll call.
Yes.
McLaughlin. Hannah.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Hager.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Scharf.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next is a motion to approve the contract and performance and/or pavement bonds for the 2018 Second Street Northeast paving and sanitary sewer replacement project.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kurtz,
Second.
second by O'Laughlin. Roll call.
Says administrative content, says pending contract arrival from Shig Fry. Did we get that?
Yes.
Okay.
Hannah.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Hayward.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Scharf.
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next, we're moving on to 2018 street rehabilitation project. Motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Hill, second by Scharf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Motion to hold the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by O'Laughlin,
Second.
second by Scharf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are in public hearing in regards to the proposed resolution of necessity for the 2018 street rehabilitation project. Any discussion? Updates?
This one we've discussed a lot, so.
Yes.
I think we know what we're doing here.
I will tell you that we have had some concerns about the assessments. Again, Brian has used the Flint formula to calculate the assessments, which breaks it down in decreasing percentages from those that front the project, going back, is it 300 feet, Brian?
Halfway to the next block, now more than 300 feet.
Okay, so this one does put an assessment on people behind the street that is directly being affected. We had talked about that on some other projects, but I just want to make sure you're aware of that, and that would be the one comment that I have had.
I don't understand that. Can you explain that?
On the other side, the sidewalk, or
Well, I'll let-
walk over, or what?
I'll let Brian
I'm
do it
way
because-
confused.
Sure. So the Flint formula provides a weighted method of distributing a small amount of the portion of the assessments to the nearby properties. And in the big scheme of things, as you continue to make improvements throughout a community and throughout especially a grid system, it distributes that, that assessment because the people that are using the street, it's based on use, the Flint formula is kind of based on use. The people using the street are not limited to just the people who front the street, who have frontage on the street. So with that in mind, the council's position is to figure out which properties are especially benefited. That's what the language in the Iowa Code speaks to, is you determine a assessment district based on which properties you feel are especially benefited. You don't have to decide that for yourself because the Flint formula, which is a tried and true method, creates a graduated scale to distribute, again, a small portion of the assessment.
Just for an example, from where Larry lives, would he have to pay an assessment on the street on the north side of Denny Shannon?
No, because he would be more than, don't know what Denny Shannon's frontage is there, but if he was, it's halfway, no, because Denny Shannon owns half of that block.
Right.
So you go halfway to the next block, and you can't go more than 300 feet. So the halfway would rule in that instance.
So, but Larry would have to pay an assessment on the street to the south of him.
Street to the south of him. Yes, because he owns that frontage. I mean, he owns,
Right.
he's a corner lot, so.
Right.
So he's gonna, you know, whether there's a project that goes on the west side or on the south side of his property, he's gonna be assessed.
Right.
But the farther away, it's less amount
Yes.
to the
Yep.
assessment.
Yep.
So you're saying you go around the corner for 300 feet from the street?
Halfway to the next block,
Not to exceed 300.
not to exceed 300.
So basically, if I'm within 300 feet of the street going toward this thumb, then I've got to pay part of the fee for the street
Yep.
down here, but I'm going to get caught the next time anyway because I'm going to pay for part of
And-
my street and then somebody else is going to end up paying.
Right, and the first time, you're gonna pay for 80 to 85%, and the guy around the corner is gonna pay 20 to 25%. And then the next time, it'll be vice versa, so that's the theory behind the Flint formula, is to distribute that.
And is it $31 a linear?
It's $30 a foot is
Okay.
what came out of the Public Works Committee.
Okay.
$30 per foot of frontage.
Okay.
And then that, the Flint formula basically looks at that total dollar amount and distributes that.
Okay.
$30 a foot, this is for Second Street?
No.
No, this is
No,
on the.
this is,
It's on the rehab project.
this is all the streets that we're doing rehab on.
This is crack and seat and mill and overlay, yep.
For example, the one from the pool, right in front of the pool, that's on the project. And north of there. Is that,
Yeah, you know, a good example is 7th Street, 7th Avenue, I'm sorry, 7th Avenue that was done, 7th Avenue Northeast, from First all the way up to the light plant. That was a project that was done in '94. So if you drive that street today, you know, trying to get 20 years, here we are, 25, almost 25 years later. It's money well spent, in my opinion.
oh, yeah.
And that gets a lot of traffic.
It does. But that's a good example of crack and seat. And then asphalt overlay.
Sure.
Any other questions for me?
Any other discussion?
I'd make the motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, receive and file oral and written comments. Thank you. If I have a second. Second by Hill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next is motion of necessity. Trying to see how we exactly have to do this. We need a motion to approve the resolution of necessity?
Correct.
Is that what we're doing? Okay.
So moved.
Motion by O'Laughlin,
I'll second.
second by Hill. You don't need a roll call on this?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried.
Now, this does include for, what'd we say, 6 blocks with the option of another 2 if we get good bids?
Eight blocks of crack and seat with 3 blocks as an
Full.
bid alternate for mill and overlay.
Okay,
So we can take advantage of favorable bids.
okay. That was-
Okay, motion to approve a resolution ratifying the preparation of the detailed plans and specifications and the preparation of the notice of hearing and notice of bidders and form of contract covering the 2018 street rehabilitation project.
So move.
Second.
Give that to that side.
Both of them on this side?
That side.
Hayward and Kurtz, okay. Roll call.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next on the agenda, a resolution to provide for a notice on proposed plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the 17th Street Southeast Intersection Improvement Project and the taking of bids therefor.
I believe this also sets July 23rd as your public hearing date.
Yep.
In this particular,
How's this gonna affect it if the 150 rehab, you know, where we're gonna redo it?
There is no impact. In visiting with both Brian and DOT, they both looked at it, and there should not be an impact. Or, let me rephrase that. DOT was not concerned about any kind of an impact,
Okay.
so.
So move.
Second.
motion by O'Laughlin, or
Hayward,
Hayward, who seconded?
Kurtz.
Kurtz? Okay, stayed on this side, huh?
Yeah.
Do you need a roll call on this?
Yes, please. Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Okay, motion to approve a resolution to assess property owners for Chapter 52 mowing failure to comply.
So moved.
Motion by O'Laughlin.
Second.
Second by Kurtz. Don't hear any conversation. Roll call.
Hill,
Yes.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Library Board, motion to reappoint Sam Anderson to serve as a member of the Independence Library Board of Directors. His is one of the positions that is open.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by O'Laughlin. Roll call.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next one is a motion to appoint Vicki Pelcher to serve as a member on the Independence Library Board of Directors. She is here if you have any questions of her.
Question, there were two existing board members that, oh, did they indicate they didn't want to be on the board?
That was the information I got, and then I had gotten an email recommending both Sam and two other people. I did not hear from either one of those people. I talked to I have a guy who wants on the library board, but the two positions open were two women. So I've talked to two females who turned me down. Because I knew Carrie Knutson, who was one of the referrals from the board, I did get a hold of her, because I knew her when she worked for the Bulletin Journal and sold ads, so I knew who she was. She told me about her situation is that she's going to go back to school to get her early childhood development degree. Said that she is interested in it, but not for 2 years, and I did tell her that we would have openings again in 2 years, and asked her to send me something in about 2 years to respond to that. The third person I do not know, had no way of getting a hold of her, have not heard from her, so I did not give you a third name on tonight. I'm still working on that. Any other explanation you need?
I make a motion to appoint Vicki Pilcher to the board.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by O'Laughlin, second by Kurtz. Roll call.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Shar,
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome aboard, Vicki.
Mayor, can we take a break?
Craig is back here. He's the chairman.
they asked
If you-
if they could take a
Can we
break.
take a break for a few
Yeah,
minutes?
I would like to. Craig, talk to her so she knows when your next meeting is and that type of thing. I told her about the board and such, but you might, as long as you're both sitting here, get a chance to visit a little bit. We are going to take a 5-10-minute break here. I need this also. And then we'll go on to new business.
I get to do this all over again tomorrow.
Really?
I'm in Clinton tomorrow.
Well, you get to drive over to Clinton.
And back, and sit through about 3 and 4 hours of meeting. Pat O'Connell set in for me that one day.
Whoa, and it's purple.
I don't think he's
One time this was
taking
all restrooms.
a real vacation by the time I've been.
From now on.
So I take about 3 a
A
year.
lot of comments tonight with no video.
You what?
I said I'm getting a writer's cramp. We've had a lot of comments that I've had to write down because we haven't. From the public.
On your email?
No, I've had to take notes on everything when everyone thinks. I don't have it recorded.
Thanks, Brian.
Your recorder's not working either.
Well, it is, but
I feel bad for those people in the Southwest. When you get 9 people that petition not to have it.
What are you gonna
That's
call
my
the kids at
bedtime.
daycare?
And she's gotta find a different
Getting
spot.
close to mine.
I think they can work it out.
You guys are our closest city,
Really?
pretty much, that requires attendance.
I wouldn't mind having daycare next to me.
I don't mind coming here at all.
Oh, I wouldn't either.
Wow.
That's a quick drive home.
Some people just want to change.
Not an easy one.
I've driven down there
150 is
and
just kind of a pain.
you know, complained
Yeah,
for
but it's not
attention.
as
That's not bad at,
Way
A
back.
lot of extra traffic on that street.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's no fun.
Some of them are kind of dirt balls that park up the street and walk down to her place from
Sometimes I should go to.
up where Casey Coach used to live, north of there.
Oh, sometimes big cities have them in the day, but there's,
We're partners. Is that on a corner?
No, it's where that road, next to that greenhouse, Bachman's used to live.
Yeah.
The next one to the south of that is where Ryan used to live. And then across that little alley or street or whatever this is Burkhart's.
They give you some antibiotics, Carl?
No.
Didn't they?
Ain't that the truth?
So you don't think there's gonna be any Hogan's Heroes?
not for you, Danny,
Wanted that
or
too,
me.
for, daycare.
We got out here in the next few minutes, maybe.
For Matt.
Yes.
He's lived in town long enough to know that.
Yeah.
It's pretty doubtful.
Just for the family.
Don't look just around the same.
I don't know.
I'm really more concerned about supper. I can miss that, but it's supper.
Well, I think he's got some, you know, like, stuff. I'm not sure Parkinson. You know, you could be right there.
He's got the shuffle.
But I'm gonna get calls this week, they're all, I'm sure they're all.
Did you spell relief, Bob?
Yes.
Especially now,
Well, I was
more calls.
gonna miss a few votes there.
Ben Wright, Mrs. Moran.
Take a break.
Oh.
Holy cow.
That's terrible.
Do you know that?
That was a sham.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know. I thought it was a different gal in that crowd than it was at first. No, I don't know her. She's got kind
Boy, you talk about being left out
Yeah,
of
like
the loop.
she's Southern.
but she's from around Hayes. I don't know him either.
Oh, yeah. There's, yeah, he's, Michael's is a truck.
Yeah, left, that could be
That's like
controversial.
Reggie's dad.
Yeah, that's funny, I was thinking that when you left, I was looking down there too.
Paul. I guess Paul's.
Hey, Steve?
They had, somebody had on
They haul our
Facebook
corn
the
to the
other
farm.
day, a set of steps. Did you see that, Deb?
Right,
There's a set of steps that you come into,
I had a lot
press a
more.
button and the steps go in. You roll
His
into where
name.
the
I guess
steps
we don't know his name, do we?
raises up.
We don't even know what his name was. Do we?
Wheelchair goes
Really?
Yep, and then when you come out,
There's my body's list.
come out on the platform, it takes you down, you leave, and you press the button,
Hey,
and
Al.
the steps come back
Yes.
out.
Subscription.
What was that?
Pretty slick.
Daycare's
It was on Facebook.
husband's name?
$35.
He was on the list to talk, maybe.
$35.
I'm on a fixed income.
Clipboard's right there.
You're right.
That's why we keep our prices so low.
Vincent.
Oh, sorry.
You're gonna have to quit running over and stealing it out of Denny's mailbox. If I get any complaints and he's not getting his paper, I'm calling down.
There you go, sir. Yeah, I got there.
I got a hall pass for this.
Depends on whether it's speed running down.
Too bad Dustin's not the one that can give you permission to do that.
Did you expire that whole day? I don't think so.
Next time you come, there's gonna be a women's only sign on the door.
Contribute that to what happens.
This meeting's
You'll have to go upstairs if you retire to the bathroom. Or check out some of those other toilets up there that don't work.
Let's see, this works right here.
Wouldn't taste very good.
Well, we're not worried about taste.
This meeting's even giving me writer's cramp.
There's another day.
I think it's almost over. I mean, I don't really know.
See, Bonnie, the last time I was here, we were out in like
Yeah.
minutes.
No, the last time you were here, we were out in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
The one before that.
Took me 45 minutes.
Yeah, because I realized it, I turned it on and got you almost closing the meeting, pretty much.
And she had daycare kids.
Oh, I saw.
Yeah,
Yeah, the rest of them pretty quick.
We vote
Run down the street.
Right back to work.
Park there.
Okay, let's get back on this. We're under new business. Hopefully, we're not here much longer. I'll be screaming in pain. Home occupation, let's see, motion to approve all tobacco, hauling, bed and breakfast, and home occupation permits pending past inspection from the City of Independence Building Inspector. You got a list of all of them.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Hill, second by Kurtz. Any discussion? Otherwise, we go to roll call.
Hannah?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Hayward?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Sharp?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next is a motion to approve the step and ramp construction project.
This is the contract with Larson's to provide the service. They intend to start July 9th.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Scharf, second by O'Laughlin. Roll call, please.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Hayward?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Sharp?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next is a motion to approve a contract for impound services with Pipestone Vet Clinic.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kurtz.
The only thing about this is the same thing as last year. They kill them if they don't get rid of them.
They try as much as they can to find a place for them.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Hayward. What's your discussion, was what?
They kill them if they don't find a place for them in a certain length of time.
With working with Pipestone and stuff, if they do not find a house or a home that will take an animal because of either its health issues or because of its temperament, they do put them down. That way it's not a cost to an issue to somebody else. But I've worked with Bailey out there, the person in charge, the manager out there, and she does as much as she can. She knows people that have farms that they'll take them if they have extra cats and stuff that somebody hasn't claimed. But at some rare occasions, yes, they do have to put some down.
How will this be affected? I keep reading, they're opening the shelter up there by Hazelton.
Then they would take them because they do, that's gonna be a no-kill.
But I mean, they're not open yet. But
And they've been working on that place for
6 years, but they average over 10 years to do a no-kill shelter. They're on target good.
Okay. All right.
How does that affect as far as our having a contract with Pipestone once they open?
Hopefully
We'll
we'll
have
contract
to-
with
Still
them.
we use Pipestone since it's less
We'll have to
time?
figure out when they actually open what we can do at that time. I say, because if they're on a 10-year plan for them to do it, like I said, I've seen the building there for 5 years. If they've been working on it since 6, who knows when they're actually gonna open when that time comes.
It's getting pretty close.
Yeah, Rhonda Reed was in the
They're getting the
newspaper.
shelters and they're,
How long is this
Yes.
contract good for?
A year.
But it doesn't say that Pipestone can't make an arrangements if, when that place gets open,
Take them
to
up
take an animal before they
Sure.
put it to sleep.
Okay.
I need a roll call if you're ready.
Okay, roll call.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Next is Will House Project, lead pipe replacement. What's my motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
This
It
is-
just says motion and roll call. I don't have what the motion you're making.
To replace the pipe at the light plant well house.
Well House.
Do we have a cost on that?
And fill in, are they gonna do the filling in of the pit too?
Yes, it's $13,371.72, and that includes taking all the piping out, and the piping goes through, so there's additional piping. They are required by DNR, if we find lead, that we have to take it out, and they did. And then this also includes filling in with the flowable mortar and capping it with concrete. And the valve then would come, it was designed so the valve would come up to the surface, so we're not in the pit. But after going through it, that pit is not something that we want or need to be keeping around.
And this wasn't something our engineers knew about when they,
The lead came up in part of the process when they got in there. Once we discovered it, we have to change it. And it's, the lead, I'll call it the seal or the lining and the bells where the pipes meet.
we're just gonna keep eating their costs, that things keep coming up.
These well houses are just.
Yeah, next
Keeps
week
us
will be something bigger,
From
maybe.
being Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the problem with this, talking to Mark, the problem with this particular well is this well originally was drilled to cool the light plant generators. And so the water went
Through the building.
west, I think it would. Well, then later on, we switched it to city, so now you got two valves. You've got a metal plate over, the valves are leaking. They leak worse when you shut them off. You don't need the shut off going out to the east or to the city. And the pit right now has water sitting in it. We take it out, we can repipe it up to the surface where you can see it started to corrode at the top by the metal plate. In fact, Mark was straddling it because he didn't want to put his weight on the rusted out metal plate that covers the pit now.
It's had water in it for 42 years.
Yeah, so it's a one-time deal. We take the valve out, we put piping in up to the input. I think John was out there, and Carl, if you were able to get there, it's a mess.
So you ready?
And
Roll
he
call.
did contact a second company.
No, the second company gave them a price on the piping and the labor, and it's in line. They did not bid the filling the pit in. That wasn't what they were asked to do, but they wanted to verify that the price was reasonable on the piping and it's in line. And that was with Northway, the firm that we would normally use for the piping type of work.
And we really haven't put much into this well house.
Isn't that the one they had to put that stuff on the walls, Bob, for 15,000?
No,
No, this is the light plant.
This is up at the light plant.
Thought that's where it was.
No.
Fifth Ward and Third Ward, I think.
Right.
So are you ready for roll call?
Ready,
Okay.
ready,
Hayward?
Freddie?
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Next is a discussion item.
Uh-oh.
This topic was tabled at the last council meeting.
Or we could just vote.
You have to vote as to what you're voting on.
What you have is, we discussed the northwest corner. You saw the staking. We talked about the southeast corner. That's been staked. I did provide to you two different diagrams. One with the garage doors and driveway to the north. The other one is a little bit shorter. It doesn't go as far into the park. The garage doors are to the south. They go across the 12-inch water main that is on the south side of the building. The third diagram is the one that was council produced for the northwest corner. But these really are the options that we have in front of us right now. I wanted to put it out there for discussion. You know what the northwest corner looks like.
One question I had, Al, was where is the sewer line in relation to these two images that we have?
Underneath of it.
It is underneath the parking lot?
That's why I looked at it.
Does it go underneath the building on the other one?
Yes.
I thought the sewer line was the one that went diagonal.
It
Yeah,
does.
it goes diagonal next to the sidewalk, but
But
it's,
it's way further
but the way,
south and.
the way that it is,
But the way it was marked out, I went up there and walked the whole thing. I can't imagine this police station is gonna be very much over top of that.
it is. It is. The way they have.
Pink
they-
flags
yeah,
and the
right.
green flags, it's gonna
Yeah.
be under it.
Yep.
Now,
That can, as far as I understand, that can be moved, a lot easier than trying to move a 12-inch water main. It's just a drainage from off the well tower, or the well house, correct? So that thing can be rerouted around or left under there, and then if we have a problem, reroute it around after that, but yeah, it will sit on top of that.
I will say Mark did not have a significant concern about the drain. It's a water tower drain. It's a 4-inch drain. It's not ideal. It can be moved. Like Dustin said, you can leave it and hope for the best, or I would say it's probably not deep enough to avoid the construction. It's probably going to be moved as part of construction, or routed around there.
So his biggest concern was the water main itself.
The water main is, that
That's a-
12-inch main is a
yeah,
major
12-inch main.
construction issue.
It runs down from the well house down to that fire or hydrant that's down there at the end there. Straight shot down.
Brian, I know you did the staking on this. On the southeast corner, when you staked that, was it the option that had the driveway on the north side that crosses that sewer line?
It was the option with the garages to the south.
Okay.
Option 3.
Just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page. Thank you.
If everybody has this one, with the garages to the south. If you go from that building and almost go, I would say to where that tree's at, just draw a straight line, that's about roughly where it's gonna be. Gonna be under probably a fourth of the building.
So the garage is about where the ball diamond is now?
Yep, yes, well, the water main kinda runs right by where the ball diamond is roughly, but yeah.
But it's on that end of.
Yes.
That would be my choice based on the options presented. Option 3.
I'm gonna be the bad guy here, and I've heard Medical Associates would be making a pretty sweet deal if we were interested in that. I know it takes property off the tax rolls, but boy, I am getting all kinds of flack about putting the police station anywhere in any park. They don't care, they don't want it in the park.
Who at Medical
Which-
Associates said they wanted to give us a sweet deal?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Have they offered Al a sweet deal? Have they offered the mayor a sweet deal?
Haven't heard a thing. Don't even
And
know-
I don't,
Don't even know who owns it.
Mercy.
Is it the same guy that wants to do an FBO out of?
Yeah.
no,
You're in trouble,
Well,
John.
I don't know how we'd answer that
You're
because
on a roll.
Well, honestly, though, technically, we've never talked with anybody from Medical Associates.
But the task force didn't
They-
want to take anything off the
Yeah,
tax
that-
roll.
That's what task force is.
But the taxes are gonna go way down on that, the longer it sits empty. So we're not gonna be getting that.
I
rate
totally
tax.
get that, but
The positive is there's $250,000 worth of concrete between the front and the back.
hey, we could put a police station in there a whole lot cheaper than we could put it in that park, even with it being our ground, I think.
Didn't Bob say when they started this, that money really wasn't a determining factor?
Yes.
Did I remember that right?
That was our, that was,
Yeah.
we were just supposed to.
It was to do with efficiency more than money.
Would the front have to be changed so you had like bulletproof glass or stuff like that?
That waiting room is so big, I'd actually probably want to condense that down, and then some of it would have to be changed over to glass or brick, most of it. I wouldn't want that much glass sitting for the front of a building, especially the police department, so.
I think if you looked at, from a remodeling standpoint, you're talking about taking everything inside the four walls out, basically.
There's some of those offices in there that are big enough that could be used, but most of them, since I was a patient there, I mean, that's where I'd go for my doctor. The rooms that you'd actually get seen in are way too small for us to do anything with. We'd be
Sure.
taking all the walls out of that part. The offices on the north side, there are some there that are big enough that would probably work, but any other stuff would have to be taken
And
out.
how old is that building already?
Sounds like a lot of expense taking all that stuff out, starting over. And when you get done, you've got an old building.
Dan Lake City,
I don't
a
remember
lot
when you
cheaper.
built.
Yeah.
And no garages
You believe in the fairy tales?
or shooting range?
If we did look at Medical Associates, I would suggest taking where 11th Avenue goes north, cut off Second Street, because all the Second Street does is go right to that brick wall and put a garage there. Goes right to that limestone hill, that's all it is, it's a dead end for the backside of that building, and put the garage there at that place.
It used to be a rock quarry.
So,
Dustin, I have a question.
yes.
How come the highway patrol and the sheriff's departments don't have garages for their vehicles?
The highway patrol, they all take their vehicles home,
But they sit outside.
but they take their vehicles home,
But they sit outside.
you're right, they do set.
Why do we have to have garages?
We don't.
We don't, we can let them sit outside and run all winter, that's what they're doing with them now.
Sheriff's department doesn't let them run all
Well, that's the
winter.
sheriff's department, the police department lets them run all winter.
When the sheriff's department and the state patrol has their vehicles and they're working, they're running.
But when they're not
But
working.
when they're not running, they're sitting outside, at home, wherever they're at, or inside a garage, depending on who has it.
Some of them sit right up the courthouse, don't they?
Yeah, when they're, if they're not being used, if somebody's
seen 'em.
gone or so. When we have them, what ours is because the computers and everything running, if we have them inside, it makes less wear and tear on the vehicles for running outside all the time.
But it's not a necessity.
Correct.
That's what I wanted to clear up, because I've been challenged on that by several people, and they say that's a nice to have, but you don't need it.
Right. It's not a necessity that we have to have it. It'd be a benefit for the vehicles and so forth, and it'd be something that would help out with them. Because the computer systems, when we start our cars, if it's been sitting overnight, then when they get there, they have to let everything warm up, and then they can get in their car faster if it's already warmed up, ready to go from being inside. When it is snowing and everything's packed up underneath them, we take them up to the city shop, and we put them inside to let them thaw out up there. And the guys ride together because they have to wait for all the ice and stuff to thaw out from underneath them. We drive them a lot more, pick up a lot of stuff here in town, and then let them sit for a shift and they get frozen up, so. It's a benefit.
Medical Associates was built in 1985, according to the Associates website.
Same year I got married. I think. It's either 84, I always gotta look at the picture.
It can't hurt to have Mike talk to Al and find out who the Sweet Deal person is.
I'd be happy to visit with them and find out how sweet it really
Sweet
is.
it is.
Jackie Gleason.
I have to go along with Mike. I took a survey and I got nailed hard. And they come after me in droves. And, they were nice about it. I mean, nobody beat me up or anything, but, and then I said, well.
What happened to your hand?
Well, that was the droves. And I said, I didn't want to get anybody else involved, but I said, you know, you might want to contact some of the councilmen, and I know some of you got contacted.
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, but I just want to let you know, you're not alone there, Mike.
Okay.
No, I didn't figure I was.
No.
But,
Honestly, I haven't heard anybody tell me we don't need a police station. What they
Yeah, no,
told me is they don't want a park,
yeah, no,
even Sandbar Hill, which is like no man's land.
Yeah.
Biggest thing I hear from callers and stuff is, contacts is, they want it to be voted on. They want to say, they pay taxes, and they want to say whether they want the police station or not. And it does sound like it's a pretty positive thing, like, it would be, what I hear, I think we get a yes vote.
anybody have any thoughts on the diagram I drew up?
I liked your diagram.
I liked your diagram too.
After I went back up there, and in fact, that day I was talking to Brian up there, and I went, and I like how you put those trees back in there, because you're right about some of that one particular tree anyway. It's not gonna be there much longer anyway, as the years go past, but I have to admit, I liked your diagram, Mike.
But
Can't
the object was to try and make it a dual-purpose park.
Right.
And separate it, with, with the row of trees, separates it off from the non-park side of things, but
Talk about non-park.
So does this
What's
take
parkish
out-
about a water tower? What's parkish about a well house?
that's what I'm saying, is,
There's already stuff there that
absolutely.
doesn't pertain to parks.
And I'm gonna guess you're talking less than 25% of the square feet of that park we're gonna be taking out. I don't know, but
Probably right.
So is your baseball thing still there? In your drawing, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's up in the other corner.
Is that the
Yes,
back,
that's
that's the
that little
backdrop
fence
with the, for that?
It's a
Okay.
backstop.
See the chain link on that one corner.
How
Yeah.
big is your area for the all-inclusive playground?
I have no idea. I just,
We had a discussion about an all-inclusive
I know,
playground for handicapped people.
which I would like to see us do, but if you're,
I would say that drawing's not to scale.
oh, that's what I was wondering.
it's probably not bad on the one side, but
If
some
we
of
got
it
it to scale, we'd have to start paying him more money.
If I can make a suggestion, we're meeting in a week in committee of the whole, and we can talk about this all night long, but if your question is whether or not the Medical Associates building is viable, why don't you give me a chance to talk to them this week and see what I can find out in advance of that? Because I
Great
don't think
idea.
you're gonna wanna make a decision tonight with that hanging out there, and there seems to be.
I make a
at least
motion, we
the hint.
table this, allow Al to.
Says police
I don't think-
station
it's
discussion
just discussion
anyway.
anyway.
Said discussion right on the agenda.
Yeah, and we're fine with it either way. I just, we could stay here a long time yet tonight, and I like you guys a lot, but I don't think you wanna be here that long.
No.
So just a suggestion.
So you do like us?
Of course.
We've already gone over
We just
3
don't wanna
hours, which is
sleepover with
our
you.
understanding of how long council meetings should be. So I have a motion to table this. We don't need that
I don't
because
think we
it's
need
just
it.
discussion
No, it's just
anyhow.
discussion.
But you are giving Al permission to try to contact and find out how sweet it is, a deal?
we're done discussing
Okay.
for tonight.
So I can
We'll
move
bring
on to reports?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
Please.
Any committees that have reports?
Our finance committee met on a special meeting.
Right, we had a special meeting last, gosh, I can't remember now.
Friday, it was on a Friday.
Yes, to discuss the payment of bills, to make sure that we stay within our function limits, to keep the state auditors happy, and what the staff have done with the bills that have come due is they've watched that closely to make sure our functions do not go over.
Are we gonna meet our target for end of the year? We're gonna zero out?
Yes, sir.
Do we need to have a supplemental appropriation for any department to do that?
Not an option. There is not a supplemental appropriation. It's basically when you approve the budget, you approve the expenditures. Our budget amendments, if there's a revenue there to support the expenditure, we can increase the expenditures.
But you can supplementally appropriate from FY
No.
18-19 to,
Automatically at the, what the staff will be doing July 2nd is closing out the 2018 books. They have to close those out before they can start payroll and start the 2019 fiscal year. And all of the funds that are left over roll over into the 2019. Now, that doesn't mean we have spending authority, but that money rolls over, so it isn't like it goes away. If there are Tim,
deficiencies?
Yeah, Tim, for example, we've held a couple of bills, and we'll pay those in July. We'll probably necessitate a budget amendment for him next year, because there'll be more expenditures than what he had budgeted.
Tim went over budget?
He had a couple of areas that did, and not all of it was his misdoings, but he had some areas that we had to hold the bills on, yes.
How much did we go over for Parks and Rec?
We have not gone over at all, so I can't give you a number on how much we've gone over because we're not over exceeding our function.
In the Finance Committee, we discussed 20,000.
What we were looking at is if we paid all the payroll and everything that we thought was coming in, there would be, there was a possibility that we would go over the function, that's correct. But we're not, I mean, again, at the direction of the Finance Committee, we're not going over those function dollar amounts. We will not. So, but that was the meeting that we had just to
We
discuss.
kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul. Or
Well, what we
when
run
you
into
have the
frequently
state
with the Parks
audit.
Department
Canberra
is,
next year.
what you run into with the Parks Department is his revenues are higher. And if his revenues go up, it takes expenditures to create the revenues. If you think about the concession stand, for example, he's got to buy product to sell. If his sales are very high, he's got to buy more product.
how soon would he have had to amend that to get that corrected?
Well, we asked the departments in March. I mean, if I take you all the way back to the budget process, we do a budget amendment with the budget process. So that's March 12th or March 15th deadline. This year, because of the sewer revenue bond refunding, we had a second amendment that came through. Normally we wouldn't, we only do one, but in this case, it was a unique situation because of the refunding bond.
One thing I think we have to remember with the Parks and Rec too is part of their big income carries over between two budget years. You know, he has to purchase at the end of one budget year when most of his revenue is going to be coming in at the beginning of the next. So that, you know, technically, you know, wherever the money comes from. For example, last year we took some money from the library. They didn't miss any bill payments. They got that money July 1st. And the next year, everything that needed to be paid was paid. And you got your money back from Parks and Rec July in the new budget year. We went through this over and over last year. The library didn't lose 1 red cent. You got what you had left at the end of last budget year. It was given back. Well, but you got the money back.
We didn't get our money
You did.
until December.
No, you had it there.
The only time the money would come, I mean, the money rolls over. If a department has money, positive cash balance, let's call it, that money rolls over. Library, it goes into, they have a special fund, so that one goes right into their fund. general fund, it all stays in the general fund. Police department, fire department, city hall, for example, those are all general fund dollars. The library and parks are in the culture and recreation function, so they're in one program. But
Can they be separated out?
no, that's dictated by the state. That's,
Okay.
I mean, the state sets those functions.
They're
Public
mandated?
safety would be a function, which would be police and fire, for example.
They're mandated to be in the same?
The state sets the functions, we don't.
Okay.
So, you know, cultural and recreation is one, public safety. Oh gosh, I won't get them right. I think there's, what, 6 of them?
I think there's 7.
7.
You got enterprise funds, you have capital funds, you have governmental, you have like a health and cultural one as well.
So, again, it isn't that anybody loses money, they don't lose money. The money's still there. We have to amend a budget to
Any
grant.
department head that needs to amend a budget has to basically be done by, you're saying March.
Well, we set it up to run concurrently with our budget approval process. We can do it anytime up to May 30th, I think, is the state code.
And that's any department that can do that.
And we did do one in mid-May, I think.
Well, we did because of the revenue, refunding revenue bond for the sewer plant that put us over budget because we paid more in debt service than what was in the budget by paying that bond off. And again, your budget is all about the expenditures. It has nothing to do with revenues other than we want to have the money there to pay for it. But the budget approval process is of approving how much you expend. That's the bottom line. So what we have to look at, Bob would be much better served if we were on a calendar year because of when his busy time is. That's when he, you know, we're taking him in the middle of his busiest time, as Bob said, and saying, okay, now you have to figure all your expenditures and all your revenues before your busiest time of year. Well, that's tough to do. So we have to take a look at, you know, maybe making his budget bigger during the budget process. Well, Bob is one of the first ones to step up and say, hey, we have to cut. I'm gonna jump right in, and he's
Yes, he
been the
does.
leader the last 3 years in offering budget
Yes,
cuts.
I've seen that. That's
But, you know, then it comes back to,
Biting.
thank you, Bob, but, you know, then he's out there generating revenue. And if you take a look at what he generates, you know, Mr. Lennius aside, Bob does a heck of a job of creating revenue in the different parks programs. But that takes expenditures. So, we've had several conversations about what has to look different in that area and how do we change that look. So it's just a matter of, yes, we have to get them to take a look at the budget a little bit differently.
And I think we're pretty transparent. I've been here a long time, and I remember days, Carl can remember days when police cruisers were spent on something else that didn't have anything to do with the police department.
Oh, yeah.
And I never saw their police cruiser, and I never saw their money again. So I think we're doing things on a very transparent basis. It's a team situation that at times, you know, it just happens because of the way his revenue year works.
We will take care of all the departments. They will all be made whole. You know, no matter how the functions work out, that hasn't been the intent. And in the 4 years I've been here, we haven't shorted anybody. The first year, we were short of general fund cash, so the rollover did not go into every department. The library is the one department that did keep their revenue from that. Everybody else's went pretty much, except for enterprise fund, excuse me. You know, the general fund we had to keep, but that was 4 years ago. And since then, we have rolled anything over that they had left, that stayed with the department. The road use tax, the street department, that has to stay there. Enterprise fund has to stay with the water and the sewer department. Those two aren't optional. Again, like I said, the library has their own fund, the way it's set up here. Not set up that way in most places, by the way. We're unique in that because the library is part of the general fund, but we do have a special setup here for the library.
A lot of cities do though. Waverly, Owine, you go down. Similar sized towns.
Yeah, but if you take a look at how it's set up on our books versus other communities, that is unique, more unique. I won't say we're the only one, but most places, the library is part of the general fund. Again, doesn't make a whole lot of difference. It's just a unique setup here, and it's okay. It works. We just have to understand that we're all in the same boat and we're rowing in the same direction. We have to work together to make this work, and there's times that it's tougher on one department than another, but they're not being short.
Any other committees?
We had pathways, but there wasn't really anything too significant on that.
Any of you individual council members want to have anything to say? Instead of going around the table, I'll just.
There was a Facebook post today about behind the library where we did all that new sewer work, and it has not been maintained at all. And Bob Beatty's gonna take care of it, but,
Should have had the last name there.
yeah.
Yeah,
The landscaping is horrible back there. It looks terrible. From looking up from Second, looking up toward the library, it looks like when we got done, we just left the piles and walked away and planted weeds. Because there's weeds this tall in there. And we got to do a better job of finishing stuff off. And landscaping has not proved to be our forte when we finish projects.
We did hire an outside firm to come in and clean up the landscaping there,
yeah.
just for everybody's information.
So they didn't
I
do a
hope we
good
didn't
job
pay
this
them
year.
already.
Yeah.
I will go back and double check, but,
Or they haven't been there yet, you're saying?
I thought they had.
oh, I was pretty certain they had been, so
I-
I'm a little
Doesn't-
taken back,
doesn't
John,
look
but I'll
like
double
it.
check.
Yeah.
And I'll be careful not to mention names until I check.
It looks really bad, so.
I just wanted to compliment everybody again tonight. We had a long meeting, we had a lot of discussion. The home occupancy, the citizens were all level-headed and discussion, and I think the council did a nice job, the citizens did a nice job.
Do you have anything you need to point out that you're doing for end of the year?
No.
Got
One
anything
thing
else?
people might be interested is on Monday, that's the first, is that right?
Second.
At noon, the church next to the post office has their homeless council meeting there. Who's on that board?
I am, then they're gonna have that speaker for the human trafficking.
Yes.
I was gonna bring that up. From Waterloo, she'll be there.
If anybody's got time, it probably would be really interesting.
What time's that?
That's at
Noon.
noon on
Noon, yeah.
Tuesday?
No,
Monday.
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 Second.
Yeah, July 2nd.
Okay.
A couple of things that you may have an interest in, passing interest in. We did not receive funding on our CDBG grant, and in visiting with Intercog, they're recommending that we drop it based on the comments they got from the state. The project just isn't viewed as being big enough to have a community-wide impact, and so they don't think the funding of that is likely
What was
moving
that
forward.
funding?
That's the Southwest Water System.
Yeah.
It's affecting a section of town, not the entire community, and it just doesn't have enough impact to where it scores very well. So
What if
they're
we,
recommending,
What if we had an evaluation done in the Northwest and combined the two and reapplied for a CDBG grant? Would that make a difference?
it could. I don't know if the,
It would increase the scope.
right.
Still might not be big enough.
What they're looking at is a project that's large enough that it potentially affects the water rates, and
That wouldn't have any.
it just doesn't rise to that level. So, again, based on the state's comments, they're recommending that we drop it because it just isn't, yes, it's a lot of money. I mean, they're not saying it's not, but it's just not enough to where it is affecting the community and the water rates and the overall They're looking at
The
communities.
stormwater wouldn't have any effect on the water rates, I mean, just on flood control,
Well,
flood mitigation.
well, this is the water valves, the water system.
Oh, that's right,
So,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they had terrible time with that.
Yes. So,
It helped.
anyway, that's their recommendation. There was a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that came out late last week on sales tax. I don't know if you saw that, but it was, I think it was Quill versus the state of South Dakota. And it ruled that the state can charge an out-of-state provider sales tax. So if we have anybody selling product, over the
Internet?
internet, locally, I mean, it is sales tax eligible now, so.
So how do we get that to go? When we
I-
start collecting?
I don't know how the state of Iowa is going to handle that just yet, but again, that ruling was significant. There's been several states waiting to see where that falls out, so something to ponder there. And the Public Works meeting on Monday, the 2nd, we have two big items, just so everybody's aware. One is the design of the First Street East Bridge on Malone Creek, talking about what that looks like and, as far as the sidewalks, trails, and railings go. The other one is a conversation concerning stormwater, specifically on Second Street Northeast. The county would like to have a conversation about tying into our project because they've got some stormwater issues at the courthouse and what that might look like. So,
We not having our meeting on the 2nd,
Do you have anything, Dustin?
the 9th.
to the 9th. Yeah, government performance finance moved to the 9th at 8 o'clock because City Hall staff on the 2nd is doing the conversion of the books and
Public safety on the 9th also.
public safety on the 9th at 3:30. Correct.
We're having a meeting of the whole Monday though.
Monday, the 2nd, committee of the whole is still meeting.
Because Gina better be done by then.
I'm not sticking around if she isn't.
I don't think I want to come in that day.
Retired that day.
She's had to write everything down since
So
I
did you
didn't
say,
have
Al,
this.
we're not meeting,
being recorded.
Public Works is not meeting on the 2nd?
We are meeting.
We are meeting.
We have to meet. There's those two items on there.
Second?
On the 2nd. Public Works is.
Oh, Public Works.
It's in the afternoon.
I thought you said meeting was on.
We still are having a workshop?
And the workshop at 6:30. I mean, I understand we could skip it. I think we have too many irons in the fire and too many things to discuss that we probably shouldn't be pushing off another month.
Motion to adjourn.
When is the meeting as a whole?
The 2nd at 6:30.
Do you have anything, Dustin?
Just for a motion to adjourn.
You want to make that motion?
I can't anymore.
Wait, Carrie's gonna wait.
That's you, Joe.
Yeah, let's go home.
If nobody has
Second.
anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
We have two of them.
You did? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the kiss say.
Aye,
Motion
aye, aye.
carried.
Five more minutes.
This was entirely too long.